We're starting off high.
We can get
I think
two fools agree on that one. Oh, by the way, look, we got the wide shot.
There was you had accountability. Now what I can
Now all you need is a podcast and a YouTube channel.
No, not even.
Where give me the money. Show me the money.
Apparently there's a food page.
Shoot the J. Shoot it. Live on Facebook.com/Foolproof Entertainment Network. I need you on Twitter. I need you to repost the Facebook pages.
To raise a human before I would
trust a human to raise back wolves.
Before I would trust a human to raise a wolf.
Right. I hear you. Yo, what up, fools? Apologies for the late start. that was issues on my end. We got things going. I am, of course, your host, Michael Reggie, as always, here with my main man, Clifford Jordan Jennings. And welcoming to the show tonight. We've got my second mom. My mom from Pittsburgh.
My aunt, my blood.
the Aunt Michelle. Along with her wonderful husband,
Uncle
the
Chance.
Chance.
Uncle Chance, also known as the. We call him the. You
the
call
Chance.
him the. we're the, as in the Ohio State. That is the Chance. You hear what I'm saying?
That's right.
How y'all doing?
Right.
Doing good.
We're doing good. How are you guys?
Listen,
We're all right. Getting through the week.
losing weight,
Shit, I wish.
melting in my chair.
Oh,
That's
well.
some crap. Like there's the pandemic 15.
Right.
Oh,
The rest of 15 is a
You know
thing.
what? Ironically, I've actually lost weight since I've been in the
Yeah,
pandemic.
You
Sean
would,
did too.
you
You
motherfucker.
you know those.
Yeah, I was like, I lost weight coming in the pandemic. I was like 195 coming in. I'm 173 now.
I hate you.
Michael,
I haven't been on the scale in a bit here, but what I tell you, so from work, I'm not eating 2 and 3 burgers a week, 3 or 4 French fries. You sneak in the double stack here and there. All of that's gone away.
But
So
see,
I'll
here's the problem is, and I had this problem when I stayed with y'all for a minute. Y'all have good food in the house.
I feel
That's
like
my problem right now. You know what? I'm doing a better job of making sure there's leftovers after we eat dinner. The problem is I eat those leftovers the next day, whereas at work, I would have brought myself a salad or I would have gotten a to-go salad from the cafeteria.
So you're the opposite.
And
Okay.
so it's a much worse there's too much stuff here.
Michael, did you just say that you had a salad?
Yes, I have literally ate salads for lunch at work for the last 3 or 4 years.
But
Thank you.
dude,
Now
dude,
I
you
understand
said-
no
I usually go
vegetables,
for
blah
that
blah
too.
blah.
Dude, you're the dude that hates vegetables.
See, I think
What
my
the hell?
I'm
And
big on them
good
now.
cook, You wouldn't eat my vegetables.
yeah,
What I am saying, I have learned to appreciate it after I had the diabetes diagnosis. So
I was going cheers until listen,
So
it took me a
Chauncey
while to get
has
down.
lost weight during the pandemic because he's not been eating fast food, but I've been cooking my hiney off. So
I've been eating.
See, my issue is that I'm lazy. I don't eat the fast food now anymore either.
yeah.
But I also don't like to cook. So it's like, I just don't cook.
Well, that's the thing.
well,
Is,
you need a woman who got laid off from both of her jobs, and her job during the pandemic became 2 things: to buy new cookware and try new recipes, and like I said before, to buy wine that I could take to the face.
No, I'll do it out.
Shout out to Lubabella.
I rather
Oh,
look.
this was Shelton Vineyards
Okay then.
There
in
you
North
go.
Carolina.
And I see Chauncey there with the big gulp Fosters.
Listen,
That's my
Oh, you know
favorite
the oil
staple.
can's happening, Michael.
that beer reminds me of a hockey fight. I don't know why. It
I
just
don't know.
reminds me of a hockey
Australian
It's
for
a
bad.
rugby fight, but you're in the
fight.
right.
Okay,
You're in the right area.
you're right. Okay, there it is. And I wondered that too. Like, do Australians play hockey? Like that?
I don't know that.
I'm sure
hockey's
they
big
do,
in
but I
Australia.
don't think they've ever done anything.
No, I don't.
You know?
I don't think so.
Now, they used to have some really crazy ass cool commercials though.
Foster's Australian for beer. I remember the commercials.
And now it's made by Miller Brewing.
Oh, of course it is, because everything is either made by
So-
Miller or Anheuser-Busch.
So what's that?
Hey, that just made me sad. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, for years.
Yeah, that
Oh.
is kind of appropriational.
It is, but the flip side of that is that all of that consolidation in the major beer market has also given rise to the plethora of microbreweries and shit that you can find now too. So
That's like Hondas being made in the USA, or by the USA.
That's awesome.
Hondas are also.
They make them in
No.
Tennessee.
I know.
I was about to say one of the biggest Honda plants is in Marysville, Ohio. It's like the single source of income if you work and live in Marysville.
See,
Let
there's
me
global-
Back in
find
the
out
day,
China is outsourcing jobs.
There's globalization all upon you. Buy American, buy Honda.
Back in the day, I was in that Honda plant working as a therapist, and I had to go in and like redesign some of the workstations for accommodations for injured workers.
Oh, really?
And that plant was brand new back then, and that was really the dark ages. So
That was in
fun.
the one in Marysville?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, I worked at a rehab center that was connected to the university, but was operated through the state, and so we took injured workers from all over the state.
Right. Okay.
And so I traveled all over the state to analyze jobs
Right.
and then help them rehab for that particular job or make adjustments so they could go back to the job full time. That type
Was
of
it
stuff.
only for injured, or did you do that?
Mine were all workers' comp injuries. Mine were all injured on the job patients, and then
Okay.
we did additional educational training for companies and for the patients, but it was all industrial.
So,
Yeah, people that were industrial injuries and worker comp injuries.
oh no, I mean, I work. That's the line of business I work with now. So,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, I don't do with that. I just claims and all that.
Yeah, sure. You do the insurance side of it.
Right, like I handle the time that they're off so they don't get fired type stuff. So
All the
yeah,
FMLA type stuff, all that kind of
yeah,
stuff.
all that. But that's interesting though.
You got to help them because they have to manage all that, navigate all that paperwork and the administrative side so that they don't.
Yeah, no, I gotta look through all that.
Yeah.
That's the fun of my gig. It's actually not a bad gig. It's just the people I work for drive me crazy.
Well, that's
Well,
that's
that's
life.
I ain't gonna let them kill me though. I guarantee you that.
There you go.
They'll try. Oh, they'll try.
They can't be taking you down that way.
I won't let them.
Nope. You can't let your work affect you that much.
No,
if
absolutely
you're
not.
fortunate enough to love your work, but not a lot of people. I mean, that's a great thing. But most people work for their passions that they love,
Right.
not because they love their. I've been fortunate that I've done both.
Yeah.
I loved my work and been able to work for my passions. But most people just work.
Well,
and
hopefully
work for their
it's
passion.
uphill from here. Let's just put it that way. Let's put it that way. Hopefully the second half of this guy's chapter book goes up. You know?
It's whatever you make it.
It's true.
Listen, you're right. You're right. I'm trying. I ain't trying hard enough, but I'm trying.
I feel you. No, I mean, I've been fortunate because I've been able to work for companies that have let me coach. So, when you talk about the passion side of the house, that's
interesting.
kind of what I've done is I work a 9 to 5 that I'm good at, that I don't have any hard feelings towards it. I don't hate it, but I'm kind of ambivalent towards it. And I'm like,
Right.
because it lets me coach, and it's honestly, I'm at a place right now that has a good work-life balance, and I spend a ton of time with my family, which I'm getting sick of them just because of the pandemic. But
I guess that would probably be what I would love to do.
that's the thing, man. It's what you're doing with like boxing and training, like.
But I don't get paid for it either. It'd be nice if that was my,
I mean, coaching high school football, I get what at most a $4,500 stipend for 4 months worth of work.
That $4,500.
And you're buying dinner and gas every day. That's all you get.
That's about it, and it's nice because you get it all.
No, it's not worth
Christmas
it. I understand
or whatever,
that,
but
like dealing with everything you're dealing with, shaping kids' minds and doing all that.
Yeah.
It definitely doesn't equate to the time you're spending, but.
But I hear you. Like
Yeah.
any little bit helps,
Listen,
right?
listen now, baby. That's
So,
extra $45 a year.
You got to have some things that make you money. You got to have things that you
Right.
personally enjoy doing, and other things you're curious about.
Right.
So, as long as you got it going and heading in that direction.
The ironic thing is all the things that I'm interested in don't pay money.
Yeah, we're working on this
Right,
one.
listen, that's the thing. I guess all of them have the potential to, but at the moment,
Yeah.
they're not bringing in.
I mean, I started off as a volunteer coach too. Like.
But I enjoy it, and my bills are paid, so God bless.
There you go.
That's all I got to say,
All right. So you got any inadvertent thoughts to kind of kick
I
us
have
off?
a spicy one.
Uh-oh. A spicy inadvertent.
And I want your opinion because it has to do with interracial relationships.
Okay.
Okay?
How do we qualify?
Right. I know that's right. I know that's right. Listen, let me say,
Yes.
I'm not even gonna put it like an inadvertent, right? And
Uh-oh.
what I'm gonna do
What you got
is
here?
I'm gonna explain how this thought came about in my mind.
We're going to get a picture of the inner workings.
Right.
Oh,
This
man.
is
This is how horror movies start.
exactly. So imagine where we're going with this, right? So what I'm saying is I'm listening to a podcast, one of my favorites.
Bert Kreischer?
No, but that is definitely Flagrant 2, Andrew
Okay.
Schultz, Akash Singh.
Yep.
And they're talking about AOC.
Okay.
What's her first name? I just know the last one.
Alexandra
Cortez or something.
Yeah.
Okay, but what they said was they was talking about her boyfriend, and they said he looked like a Proud Boy. And they looked him up.
He kind of does look like Cole Beasley for the
Listen,
Bills.
I didn't listen, right? So when they said that, because the whole conversation started with Andrew Schultz saying, I wouldn't even imagine her to be with a white boy. And my first thought was, I wouldn't necessarily either. You know what I mean? And then seeing her do, I was like, that's interesting. And then I already knew Kamala Harris is her husband's white, right? So my first thought is, and this is, listen, love is love, and I appreciate all love, but my first thought is, if I look up this Muslim chick and her husband's white.
Ilhan Omar.
Right. Which he is.
Yeah.
I call conspiracy. You hear what I'm saying? Like, do you have to have a white husband to be a minority in politics? Or, like, is it a conspiracy? Or are minority politicians equal to pro athletes? Where you get big and you get a white counterpart.
So I guess the only commonality there is
You get a white
I'm just, I don't know.
Nazi got a white wife when he didn't have 2 nickels. So
Right,
I don't know.
and that's
they were fashionable back then.
Yeah. We were starting the trend, man.
But what is it a conspiracy? I said, listen, if the girl from St. Louis with the micro braids,
Okay.
Corey Bush.
Okay.
Now, if she pops out with a white dude and Corey Bush, then I said, I'm going to know something.
So I don't know about the politicians, but how are you feeling about Serena and her boy Alex Ohanian?
That's true.
See, I mean, that doesn't really, I don't mind anything like that. The only reason why Listen, I don't mind any interracial
He's talking about the
relationship.
repetitiveness of each of the.
He drew the parallel to the pro athletes, so that'd
Right.
be the same
Oh,
bucket, right?
right. No, because these are politicians, right?
Yes,
And you
correct.
have the ability to control the populace with the things that you pass. And I would just think that three's already a coincidence. The fact that one of them wears a hijab and
I think what's interesting, although I don't think this is as true as it was like 10, 15 years ago, typically the more common element is black man, white woman.
Now that's true too.
Not woman of color, white dude.
Yeah,
we're passe now. Look at all the commercials.
Right.
That's true.
Right now.
Right. No, you're right.
Now it's actually that's all the commercials you see are black women with white men.
White men.
Yeah,
Right.
and Cliff, what I would say is your analogy with or the intriguing thought with the relationship with politicians and or athletes. There's this perception of power, right? And there's folks who are going to have that attraction to it. So, I don't know that it's necessarily the politics. It might be the visibility. There's a lot of things wrapped up in that.
But AOC and her boy were together before AOC was a politician.
Right.
You got to remember, she hadn't been a politician that long.
Well, we don't know.
But you've been
like some of them have gone to law school, have been through, and so then you're narrowing your field.
True.
To black men, and you're narrowing. So then, you're narrowing your exposure.
Right.
No, that was the number. Now
that makes sense to
fall
me
in love
too.
with the dude you're with,
Right.
That was the number one thing that I thought too. Is most people do meet their people in their
either in college or through college or work.
But then that's where the correlation to pro athletes came too, because it was like because it's like, well, you mean to tell me that you spent more life as a politician than you have as a person? You know what I mean? So before you got there, I'm not saying I know.
But I mean, I think what, at least my interpretation of Michelle's comment was, it's that path of life, right? It's what you're exposed to kind of coming up.
Right.
Like pro athletes, probably exposed during their time in college first. Same with politicians and people in places of power. A lot of the times
now
where that comes
makes more sense. That makes
sense.
And
all of your universities, I'm sorry, go ahead. You go first.
The commonality is they both get a lot of attempts, right? Because of either the income, the power, the prestige. Right? You're playing AAA baseball. You're not getting you're not playing the ladies.
Right.
Right? Because you're moving from place to place in a bus with 20 other guys.
Right.
If you are a Premier League soccer guy and you're in England and you're chilling other than playing twice a week, you've got opportunities to socialize that some of the others don't. So.
Right.
And in relation to that as well, you're saying that what one of you said was it kind of beginning in the college phase, and your universities are still notoriously low in minority diversity.
Right.
So right there, your dating pool is a bit affected.
Unless you go to an HBCU.
Right.
Right. No, you're right. You are right, but I still think it's a conspiracy.
Oh, well, so
I still feel like it's only you ain't gonna let you go, and the women too. Oh, we're only gonna let you go too far unless you put me on your side. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't. Yeah, I don't know. That's what the first.
I'm not totally. I hear what you're saying. It is a little interesting.
Right, like
that,
not one.
Every single one of them.
Right, not one has. And I'm not even saying same race. I'm just saying
not even another
minority?
race, another minority.
Like not one of you. And then the only other one, the Corey, what's her name?
But maybe that's
Corey
what got
Bush.
them. Maybe
none of them same sex.
You look up her Wikipedia. The first thing at the top is single mother.
I believe that.
What?
I believe it.
What? Politician, single mother? What?
Right.
And
That's
then
insane.
all the rest of you have white male husbands? I don't get it. It just doesn't make sense to me. That seems a little beyond
coincidence. Well, does that make Barack even more impressive that he was in there with a black wife and
Right, but you remember when they first
That he was half white.
Right,
So.
that was the first thing. Right, well, you know what I mean. That was the first thing they brought up. They couldn't just let us have it. They was like, no, but wait,
I
wait.
see
But
where-
Wait, he's out.
So then, Cliff, I got a question for you.
Of course.
Because, you know, you were kind enough to send me the question or two that you were going to be asking. Do you know what year in the United States that they abolished the law that you couldn't have interracial marriage? That is the anti-miscegenation law.
I heard it because they had that movie about it. It's not on
Your radar.
right.
Okay.
Hold up.
Well, think about it, Mike. How about you?
I guess.
Supreme Court.
gonna say
Who was the
19.
dude?
I was
Ed
gonna go
Ford.
like
We'll sit down a bit.
somewhere between like 68 and
go-
72.
78.
Go ahead, Cliff.
I don't know.
I was gonna go like
84.
I was gonna go earlier than that. I was gonna go like my first thought was like I don't know, probably 63.
Nah.
So you both were close. It's 67, and you were closer than I was because in my mind, I remember right. So it was 67 was a Supreme Court decision, but in my mind, I remember thinking like Virginia was one of the last ones to hold out, but the landmark decision was Loving versus Virginia.
Right,
Okay.
Loving
I
versus.
thought it was like in the 70s. So when we got married in 86, you know, really it was less than 20 years after it was illegal.
Right.
Right.
That's
Illegal.
insane.
Right.
Mostly in southern states and in Missouri, Oklahoma, all those.
Through the
Central
Midwest
places.
belt, kind of.
And all these gays trying to steal our shine. Let us have 50 years at least. I'm just playing. I'm just playing.
And for Chauncey and I, it was different than what we were just talking about.
Right.
About how, you know, that narrowing the field or the playing field for these people. I mean, Chauncey and my friendship was solid
Right.
and strong before we became romantically involved, and it was also from the beginning.
Right.
Like, so it you know what I mean? It was from.
Yeah. So I mean, let's take it that way. Oh, go ahead.
Well, first, let me preface this by, even though that was my inadvertent, I didn't, you know what I mean? Love is love. You love who you love. You hear what I'm saying? I have nothing against being with a white woman, just like being with a black woman. But,
Yeah, but the generation before us, it wasn't a choice.
right.
Unless you want to go to jail.
Well, listen, you know me, I'm a dice roller. So it's like, if this is what I want, this is what I want. You can't take it from me.
No, Cliff. I wasn't hearing you be judgmental about who those women were with at all. I wasn't hearing you be judgmental about their relationships. All I heard you being was it was an interesting fact that in each and every one of
Right.
them there was a white person involved as well.
It threw me off when I heard it.
Yeah,
and
that's
it
you know,
made me
I
do
didn't
my
hear you be
research.
judgmental about their relationships.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, no, I believe if you who you love is who you love, and it doesn't matter who that is. And a lot of times, and I'm sure we're gonna get into it. Your love is gonna be tested in ways you're not prepared for,
Right.
regardless of who you're with. And I could only imagine the way y'all's love was tested, especially going into what you were saying when it was just legalized. What 66? What did you say?
67.
67?
So
I was 5 years old.
We were starting kindergarten. They knew.
My mom went, right. Right.
Get ready for us. Don't start no stuff, won't be
They were
no
like, let's
stuff.
go ahead and roll this red carpet out.
So I mean, that's actually a good segue into kind of the we'll call it the interview portion of the show.
Okay.
Because I won't razz on Chauncey quite yet about his Cowboys.
Woo! There ain't nothing to say. There's a whole lot of guys playing offensive line that are happy to be in the NFL.
I'm
right
sure.
now.
I'm sure.
Man, you're
Uh,
not wrong.
so you talked about it. You were starting to get into it just a little bit, but I mean, like, how did you two meet? How did this kind of come to be from a relationship standpoint?
Well, I'll start and then I'll let. So Chauncey and I have known each other for a long time. We actually probably first met at
From the same hometown.
Yeah, we're from the same hometown. We're from a small hometown.
In the Ohio Valley.
Yeah, we're from Springville, Ohio. Our parents knew each other. Our dads graduated from high school together. So we were good friends all the way through high school, and just had a really solid friendship. And we had a romantic interest in each other, but it was a really dicey thing. I mean, it was a really difficult and brave thing for me to step out and say that I was interested in him and wanted to be with him romantically, because it was so not out there.
Like a Romeo and Juliet type situation.
We're talking 1980.
Oh, I said like a Romeo and Juliet type situation. Y'all
and so
different sides of the tracks.
Totally, actually, 100% totally initially.
Cliff is so romantic.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, families know each other. Y'all on two different sides of the track, I was gonna go Bronx Tale, but that's flip,
And if I were to be completely honest, I fought it. I fought it. I fought my feelings for him. I fought the desire to have a steady and exclusive relationship. I fought it a bit because I knew my grandfather was going to have a meltdown, and my dad was going to initially react the way he did, and things changed, of course, through the years. But because
you did correctly predict all these events.
I did. So I kind of knew, and Chauncey and I would go through periods where, we kept our relationship secret.
Right.
Flat out secret. Just even in college, people that were closest to us had no idea. Like, it
didn't need to know.
Yeah. It just because it had potential to create so many issues that until he and I were ready to commit to each other exclusively and long term and for life, we weren't ready to go more public. And then as our relationships went on, more and more people came into that circle through college. But initially on, it was a very private and very secret and very.
Do you feel like?
I fought it.
Right. Do you feel like that time hiding, like being together behind a curtain, kind of hindered getting to know each other like you could have?
No.
It didn't enhance it.
No.
Right. Or vice versa.
Actually, I don't know. I'll let Chauncey answer first.
Bring your mic a little closer.
So we were in Columbus, right here in the middle of the university. We'd go home once or twice a quarter, maybe. Right? My parents would be like, "Hello, who is this?" Right? Because we were here, we were in Columbus, and very different than what Steubenville was in terms of.
I believe that.
Our ability to move around and just have varied interests, common and uncommon friends.
Right.
And you have to remember, we went to college in 1980. So Ohio State University had one computer center that had like 30 computers in it and one massive mainframe. It wasn't like we were all walking around with laptops and telephones people. So to keep ourselves on the DL was really easy to do.
Right.
Right.
So I agree with Sean. I don't think it didn't hinder or enhance. I think that we already had a solid friendship and we already had chemistry.
Right.
And once we were removed from the oppression, and I'm not being negative.
I know. Right. No, I'm with you.
Removed from the oppression, and we were able to explore our relationship in a more free way. All it did was move forward, and as it moved forward in a solid fashion, then we brought people into the circle. Now that doesn't mean we didn't have a lot of explosions along the way,
Right, right.
especially when push came to shove.
Right.
You know, when he, especially once he asked me to marry him.
So what was the realization? What was the date when you both felt like we finally breaking the proverbial chains, like where we can be free, we can express our love openly? You know what I mean?
Probably after we came back from spring break.
No, that's right. They was like, fuck it, our lives have changed. We're gonna do what we want to do.
Well, I think that it would only be fair to say that even though we've dated. So Chauncey and I will be celebrating our 34th wedding anniversary on Sunday.
And congratulations.
We started dating 6 to 7 years prior to that, so we've been together 44 years.
Cheers! Cheers to 34 years.
Listen,
I didn't know if I was gonna make it 34 months.
Listen.
My longest relationship is with this man right here. So.
That's right. Stupid as fuck.
30 years and counting, my man.
Listen.
Woo!
You're right. You're right. I don't know too many people that long.
That made me lose my train of thought.
I'm sorry.
Listen.
I think we were on the. I think Cliff's expression was, "When did you break the chains?"
Right,
and,
right.
Like realize.
Oh,
this is
okay.
what
So I think that Chauncey and I, it would only be fair to say that initially on, we didn't necessarily date exclusively, or maybe I should say me more.
Trifling.
That's why I love. That's why I love our Michelle. Ah.
It's only the truth, and it goes back to that battle, that internal battle that I had, that I knew what being with Chauncey long term was going to do, at least initially, and that battle with, can't I just find that in a white guy? Why can't I just find that in a white guy?
Right.
And it just ended up that just wasn't ever. I mean, Chauncey and I dated consistently, and then, we had a few breakups here and there, but I would say by time we hit our sophomore year, mid to end sophomore year, junior, end of sophomore year into junior year.
We both graduated in 5 years, so that's kind of fresh.
That's a blur right there.
It bleeds a little bit.
Of course, my degree was a 5-year degree, so we'll just
so was mine.
Listen.
So
now, some
Chauncey's
people graduated in 4. I didn't.
I would say that we both knew very young that we were serious about each other, and but I wouldn't say that it was completely solidified until our junior year. But I will tell you, as a young man, Chauncey approached my parents and told them that he was in love with me and gonna marry me.
How old were you when you remember doing that?
He was 18.
Okay. Still a baby though.
18, 19. Yeah, we were babies. 19.
But to go with what you said, listen, I couldn't imagine, because I'm one of those people that always tries to put themselves in other people's shoes, in situations, and I couldn't imagine being a woman, let alone a white woman. You know what I mean? Because what I'm saying is, just a woman picking their mate means so much, because you have to, they have to meet your criteria. And that, I'm black myself, so I don't want to just call it a burden, but to my mind as a white woman, that's a burden. You know what I mean? I don't care how much I love you.
Systemic racism.
Right. Like, you're automatically pulled into our pool. You know what I mean? And
don't fully understand it at the time.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So that's where I'm like, as thinking from your perspective, I can understand exactly why you said everything you said, and that wouldn't have deterred me either, because it's understandable. It's understandable to feel that way.
Now, Chauncey and I know that our relationship is of God. Chauncey and I know that God intended us to be together, and God intended us to have the children we have, and that he also intended us to have the impact on the people that we have had
I know
because
that's right.
of our relationship.
I know that's right.
So the difference is that Chauncey knew that much younger and much more intensely than I did initially because of all the things you just said, Cliff. So
Right. He looked
I
right.
appreciate that you get that.
Of
You
course.
know,
Yeah.
That well, I don't think we. I feel like we clicked way back how we clicked for a reason. And when I said I love you, I meant that because it's refreshing to hear someone that is just willing to give the unbiased truth. You know what I mean? And even if you give me your truth and it hurts my feelings, I still respect you more for it. Because I don't want you to spare my feelings with lies. Now, it's not the way I was brought. So give me the truth, and if that's how you feel, and we'll get over it. I'm just glad that you're a type of person that would give me truth, even if it could sway the way someone would look at you. Because that's how I am. I'm gonna give you the truth, even if you look at me awful for the rest of your life.
well, I'm sure there'll be there might be a few people that'd be like, what? Like she was the player, like
Right.
for a minute, but it was just all about the psyche of it too, but the bottom line is that it was just a ridiculous concept to have at that point, but I couldn't help it because of the overwhelming impact that it was going to have, and then of course the things that I said was going to happen did,
Right.
at least initially they did all happen.
Right.
And now that doesn't mean I didn't have a support system too, because
Right.
Eventually we did.
So
But
I mean,
Chelsea was just a little stronger in it, younger than I was, and but are just a little bit of a knucklehead on occasion. But
That's why he's the Chance
The
and
Chance.
not the. You better correct yourself. It's the.
Perhaps not to say my boy didn't have his girls on the side too in college.
Well, he was supposed to.
No, I stayed home
was
and
supposed
studied.
to,
I
but he
studied
didn't-
hard for
He
my
didn't
degree.
do it though.
yeah, studied hard.
He
I
was
hear you.
supposed to, but he actually didn't do it. For the record, that was just you. I'm just playing.
He stayed split.
So just because I got a text from someone that's watching the show, and
Are we messed up?
she usually doesn't watch the show, and
Oh.
she was not happy about the 34-month comment. So I got to take a quick pause right now and say, Shar, I love you. We all
Oh.
have our challenges sometimes, but I love you. We have been together for longer than 34 months.
Oh, he was just being extemporaneous.
Thank
Listen,
you.
well, I don't know what that means, and I also don't know how to do math that fast on the fly. So,
Sniff, here's me. Shoo!
right, let's round. I'm gonna round those words up as well as the 34 months, and we're all
we
Oh,
all
I-
together.
I missed all of it. What did I miss here?
Well, he said 34 years, 34 months. Shar got salty. She's like, so he was just ripping. I'm like,
I missed
I
all of
love you, Shar.
I did too.
we
I
all love you.
Jar.
Cheers to you as well.
So when,
Oh my girl.
so to loop us back in, so you were talking about you had support from some family members. Obviously, some family members things blew up. I guess my question is how did I kind of guess the initial round of your dad or your father, your grandfather, whoever finding out, one, were you able to tell him first, or did they find out through other sources?
Did you do it
And then
together?
two, from being supported from family.
Oh,
how's
this
that?
is a hot one.
Uh-oh. Is somebody gonna get in trouble? Are we digging up
No.
old wounds? All right.
No, I'll start
this
it.
is yours.
Right.
So let's just answer that question in kind of somewhat a global, but
I'm with you.
way.
I'm with you.
Multiple people
Ratted you out.
decided it was their job to rat on us.
Okay.
Oh, we saw Michelle and Chauncey. Oh, did you see Michelle and Chauncey? Oh, I came home and Michelle and Chauncey were you know.
So here, wait.
And that was
So-
your first,
so
and that was her
for
first introduction to the culture of snitching. And you was like, they get snitches
Yeah,
in this.
right. So for context, Steubenville's like 40 or 45 miles from Pittsburgh.
Right.
Take her to a restaurant in Pittsburgh. We're at some little dark place. You know they didn't give us the best table in the
Oh, you
place.
know that. Y'all
And
by
they
the
saw
door.
us, and before we got home, no cell phone, somebody went to a payphone and said, "Hey, I saw Michelle and Chauncey."
Oh shit!
Actually, we had come home from college and
That
we
was
were on
worth a
break.
quarter to
and
someone.
Right. A
Chauncey,
dime.
he wanted to take me up to Pittsburgh, so we were like, because we couldn't get together in Steubenville, we were still in the DL, and so he's like, "Well, I'll take you up to Pittsburgh," and it was between our freshman and sophomore year of college, and he's like, "I'll take you up to Pittsburgh, and we'll have dinner, and we'll go." And he took me to the show.
It was before date night was really a thing. It's what we did.
He took me to see a musical called Seesaw. I remember the show he took me to.
Did I?
Yes, you did. And actually, that's where we were seen. And we were seen by my mother's best friend and her now boyfriend.
Yeah, and there's no
We'll
way.
go back for a second. Okay, so we were seen by my mother's best friend and her husband, who's now my mother's gentleman friend.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
So we were seen by my mom's best friend and her husband, who was also good friends with my dad. So they told my parents, but they weren't the only ones.
Because Cliff, I was probably the only brother in the theater.
Yeah.
They was probably like,
third or fourth time my parents had been told something or something or something. So then basically I get called home and I'm like, and basically,
Brother can't have good seats in the mezzanine. What?
like like all hell's breaking loose. Like my dad's pissed. Like people are leaving work. I'm getting called from work. I'm calling Chauncey crying. I don't know what to do. My parents are freaking out. So I get to my house and Chauncey's on the front porch. He's there before I'm there.
I know that's
Ooh,
right.
There you go.
I know that's right.
So we go in together.
Bad news doesn't get better with time.
This
So
is
we
true.
go in together and basically we sit down and my mom and dad confront us. And Chauncey, we're both honest, but Chauncey is blatantly honest. And then
That's
and
why I
then
love
we
you.
have this long discussion and my dad talks about how he's longtime friends with his dad and how he likes him as a person and blah, 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 but this just can't happen. And my mom's freaking out, this just can't happen. And blah, blah, blah. Like, how will you ever have a life? You'll never get a job.
This
How
is
will you-
happening.
And how are you going to have kids and you'll never be accepted and people won't accept you? And okay, now it's the 80s, honey. Like, come on. Like, this has only been legal for 13 years. It's like 14 years. It's like
I don't care.
1981 or something, 82. So whatever, we're right around there. So
Me and
Chauncey
Johnson
says
wrote them
my
dice,
dad,
Wrote them
No,
dice.
I'm not rolling the dice. I'm just hard headed. It's what I want.
Listen, he said
Right, you can't
7-Eleven
tell me
out the
anything.
gate.
so Chauncey looks at my father and what do you say to him? Do you remember?
I don't know.
You remember.
You're gonna have to deal with this.
That's exactly right.
That's
Gonna have
where
to
we're
deal
I mean, basically, Chauncey looked dead at my dad and said, I'm in love with your daughter. I don't expect to fall out of love with your daughter. I'm going to make your daughter my wife someday, so we're going to all have to figure out how to deal with this. Well, that just made things go ballistic.
Right.
That was
Well,
the.
man, oh,
It
you're
had
not
to be
going back
said.
to college. You're not going here. You're not doing this. You're not doing that.
Had to be
So then we started lying again.
said. Then you started what?
They started lying again. Is that what you said?
Yeah,
I mean, you
everybody
know,
was happy.
because it was easier than dealing with the, no, I broke up with him. Yeah, we're not seeing each other. Yeah, I'm going back to school. Yeah, blowjob.
Yeah, I live in Columbus.
You know, I mean, there was only landlines. I only talked to my mom every Sunday at a given time because that's when I would be next to the phone. Nobody was taking pictures of us. Nobody was carrying cell phones around. Like, I was like, yeah, I'm not dating him anymore.
right.
Right? Ask Kevin. Kevin knew. Kevin always knew.
You know what? I'm just learning that whole thing right there that you just described at my job, and I'm not trying to derail the conversation.
No,
But-
derail it.
But no, you're not getting off that easy. All right. But I have an issue with when people tell me to do something that doesn't make sense. I say I'm not gonna do it.
Right.
Like no, I'm just not. I'm not gonna do that. But I realize that other people say sure and just don't do it,
Right.
as opposed to saying no, I'm not gonna.
You know,
do
sometimes it's easier to ask for forgiveness
Well,
than permission.
that. Well, you know what kind of person I am.
I understand.
If I tell you I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it. So I don't want to be the guy that's like, sure, I'll do that, and then you see me not doing it, because then it makes me feel like I was like
But that's the high
scary for not
integrity part.
addressing it.
I mean, I get that. And I see, I work in a corporate environment. I see a lot of the other two.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we'll get that.
And they
Let's
succeed.
schedule, let's go, and then it doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
I need to
But
start
Mark-
doing that. That what you said, just minus the BJ. I'll do
That
that.
is going to be edited out.
I'm
No, they got editing software. Post-production.
You get that little like picture over my mouth and beep.
No. Michael does post-production at like 4 a.m. on Saturday morning.
I mean, usually the podcast does drop about 2 a.m. So
Listen, if you could definitely beep it, and I'm still gonna laugh. This is fucking hard. Just make sure you catch the abbreviation as well, so we don't leave anything.
So yeah, the shorthand there was just tell people what they want to hear as opposed to the act that was described.
Nope, just beep.
beep beep beep.
Yeah, all that.
Oh goodness.
Well, after that occurred, after I decided to use that technique and ignore everybody, Chauncey and I were in bliss for a number of years and just did our own little thing and try. Those that were in our circle were in our circle, and you were either with us or against us. Most of our friends were good. It wasn't about
How many
that.
people got stitches?
With that?
How many people got stitches? How many people snitched on you that you caught up with later on and said,
Well, no, so
Um,
most of it was all usually old folks talking
Right.
to parents. There was only
Right.
one dude who taught some stuff out of hand, and when we were high school, and
No.
oh yeah, I bet you handled that.
he's saying stitches. Who got their hands put on?
Right. I bet,
There
right.
was the one young guy who.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
We forgot about that.
Chauncey is talking. Okay, Chauncey.
Allegedly.
As far as the people who snitched on us and told on us, as far as our relationship, there was really no fallout for them, except we knew where to hold them
Okay.
in place.
See.
Chauncey thought you were asking if he ever put his hands on anybody that got out of line
Oh,
with
there
me,
would've
which
been
happened
two.
in
Well, yeah.
college.
That's what I was.
It
That's
happened in high school before we were dating, and then early on because some
Yeah,
young
spoke out
smart
of
ass,
school.
and then put his hand up my cheerleading skirt, and Chauncey didn't take too kindly to that and put him up against the lockers. But then he also put his hands on somebody our sophomore year of college that was way out of pocket with me.
Right.
But that's not Chauncey's ammo, and that's way out of character for him. And I think that's what he was answering. He thought you meant.
okay. Okay.
He said snitches or stitches. I went, oh,
Did
No, I
anybody
was just
ever
saying how
get
many people
out of
got
line that he had to
stitches?
put his hands on them?
I'm
it was
just saying.
stitches and hands, I think, was the intent of the question. So.
The real question was that right.
But it was the fallout,
Essentially.
right? It
Well,
was
the
any
multiple
friends.
people that yacked about
Right. Any
us.
friends that
no.
talk. Right. That's what I was basically.
The only
asking.
one that really took some punches to the gut, and then we surpassed it eventually was my brother-in-law.
Okay. Okay. I mean, sometimes that's what you got to listen. I commend V Chance because I'm Arya Stark. You hear what I'm saying? Everybody that said something about us, once these shackles come off, you let the cage door open, and I'm coming for you.
You gonna have
hear
your
what I'm
list-
saying?
your
Because now I'm
list.
very comfortable with my relationship. And you thought it was a game?
Well, that's interesting. The whole you thought it was a game. We could probably list you dozens and dozens of people that would, especially early in college, that would have written it off like, oh
Right.
yeah, they won't
They won't,
last,
right.
they won't do this, they won't
Uh-huh.
last 6 months,
Uh huh.
And here we are 34 years strong
I was
with.
about
And
to
look
say,
at how
me,
many people that you touch that love you. You hear
that's
me?
true.
And,
Amen.
You
and
hear me?
I,
Fools agree.
I am still crazy. I'm still crazy about my man. I'm still
I know
crazy
that's
about
right.
my guy. And,
I mean,
you know,
look at him.
so,
Look at him.
so,
Black don't
so
crack.
you know, I could give another
Don't
really
put your
good gesture to
mug
those
down
people.
just yet, sir. That's another clank on that. You hear what I'm saying?
Here
Yes,
I
you
am
are
in my early
included.
30s looking like I'm 45, and Chance out there looking like he's 30.
Listen, I'm just saying.
Then once we got serious, once we got serious, we were like, okay, now we're gonna have to just you know, bite the bullet and take what comes.
Right, right. Now here comes the real question, and this is the last one that I'm gonna ask in reference to the matter.
Sure.
What issues? Well, I don't want to say issues. First of all, I'll rephrase and say, did you come into any problems when it came to the children aspect of it? Whether it be family, because that seems like that not reignites what y'all went through back then, but it's like, well, are you going to have my grandkids doing this, or are you going to, you know what I mean? Like, did you run into issues there?
There's a little bit of difference, right? Because although we grew up in the same hometown and generally grew up with the same belief sets, like discipline was a little different.
Right.
Kind of church attendance, other expectations,
Right.
but generally, there weren't a lot of differences, but there were a few.
That's good though. I mean, especially I guess it's because you.
Well, the fact that we both grew up in.
That's the thing.
And we grew up in the same type of environment.
That's
we grew
the thing.
up, and actually, Chauncey's parents were fortunate enough to be further educated than my parents were, and in that day and age, that was not usually the case.
Right.
His parents had further education, and mine did not. My dad was a mill worker. But we grew up in the same area that had, and my family were churchgoers, his family were churchgoers, even though culturally,
it's a little different.
We still had the same morals and values.
Right.
But you're asking me if we had barriers to raising our children because they were biracial.
Well, that's the case. Listen, I only asked that question because the mother of my child is in a biracial relationship with herself while in a biracial relationship with someone else. You feel what I'm saying? So I get it. That was a joke. She's mixed, but she's with an alternate race. But I have had those exact same issues with her where it was like we just don't seem to align on certain things, and it was never like discipline or anything like that. Religion tied into it, which I never quite understood because neither one of us are hella religious, you know what I mean?
But yeah, and so let me clarify a bit. So with that,
you can.
Right, I grew up AME, African Methodist. Michelle grew up Catholic.
You're right on my. You said clarify, and you're doing it. Let me continue.
Right, so socioeconomically, Steubenville was interesting. A little bit of a crucible for the time where it was maybe 60 white, 40 black, but there wasn't a huge economic divide because everybody worked in the mill.
Right.
Like, so if you were a welder or a plumber or electrician, you made a little more than the guy who was working labor or whatever.
Right.
You still made a good wage. What we didn't have, there almost no Asian community, no Latin community. There were a few Jewish people. I think we were like
one synagogue
in like a 25 or 30 mile radius.
Okay.
So it was how we grew up and how we were raised and how we raised our children. Right. It was you're looking at a Venn diagram, there's a pretty big overlap in terms of the similarities. Not a lot of differences other than
Now what? So that being said, what that led to was that Chauncey and I came from a similar background where it was easy to come to the same point with rearing our children on things like Christianity,
Right, right,
family values, general right and wrongs, even religion, discipline. Chauncey was a little bit more of a disciplinarian, so I needed to err to that side where I would have let them get away with things a little more, and then in the end I kind of did once in a while, which wasn't necessarily the right choice, but
right,
just the
right.
truth. So I mean, I did
That's what
have
moms
to.
do.
That's what moms said. I did have to I did have to figure out how to, make the discipline style more even. Those weren't the barriers, though. The barriers we had were external.
Right.
So where we were raised in this 60-40 community, we've never found that exact blend for our children. And because Chauncey and I were more affluential, we were not, and quite frankly spent more on our houses or more on our things, so that put us in the suburbs or put us again in those areas.
Right.
Right.
And because it was not like Steubenville with that type of diversity, our kids then, the barriers were the lack of diversity for them, and then the barriers became things like, for me, I had to figure out how to take care of their hair and take care of their skin, which quite frankly is different than ours. And I was fortunate in that I had good Black women friends and women, a wonderful Black mother-in-law and people that I could turn to, that, and because I wanted to learn and because I wanted it to be right and accurate, but those were little barriers at first, like trying to figure out what was culturally necessary versus aesthetic.
Right.
Like hairstyles, let's say. And then the cultural barriers of the experiences the children had. Like, we always had to talk to them about the fact that about their diversity.
Right.
You always had to have that quote, what everybody's talking about, the talk.
Right.
Because it. But my kids were exposed to racism consistently.
I believe that.
Listen,
and I remember I've heard. I mean, I know I've heard.
First of all,
some stories throughout the years.
No, I'm not downing
stuff,
nobody, but didn't they come up in Pittsburgh?
Yeah, baby.
I've only had racist experiences in Pittsburgh.
But you know what's really interesting about that? People in Pittsburgh don't think they're racist.
Of course they don't.
I've only had racist. You remember some of them.
Pittsburgh is one of the most segregated major cities that I've ever been to.
Remember we got kicked out of that bar that one time?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I've only had, I'm not going to say, no, I've only had racist experiences in Pittsburgh. Even if some of them were just jokingly, it still was like you just don't get it, huh?
Well, and that's the thing, they don't.
No, not at all.
They don't get it, or they don't see it, or they don't want to see it. And it all goes back to that whole, when you're trying to explain what true systemic racism is, and it's difficult to understand when you've not been a woman from clear back in the 80s that used to listen to people drive by me on a college campus and scream profanities at me about.
I know what they were screaming too.
What's that?
I know what they were screaming too.
They were.
I know what they were screaming.
You know what they were saying, And then Chauncey, actually, I also was frequently ridiculed by Black females.
Yeah.
And I would get
it from both sides too. Yeah.
I would get it more overtly. They wouldn't be as blatant with Chauncey.
But they weren't into it back in the day, so you missed out. Don't be mad.
They didn't want the Chaunce, man. They didn't want the Chaunce. I was in the B stack. All right, so good. I'm good. Those fools, they didn't know. They didn't agree with me. They didn't know those schools.
Oh, listen, I am sure you got it from the black women. You hear what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, big time. And listen, don't you think that isn't why I paid more attention to making sure those girls' hairs didn't look a hot mess?
I know that.
Said something to me. Don't you think I didn't make sure their hair didn't look right, their clothes didn't look right? Don't you think I learned how to put lotion on them every day, even though I was like, what? Lotion every day? What do you mean? I didn't want to listen to that. I was already being ridiculed and mocked.
Listen, let me tell you something. You do better than my baby mom, and I hope you're watching. And that's what I said, is in an interracial relationship with herself. So she should at least know those things. You didn't have to go through that. And you had a mom that made sure you didn't have to go through that. So don't make it to where my daughter has to go through that just because her hair's a little kinkier than yours. Like, stop playing.
Well, I just kept going. I just kept saying, okay, that product didn't work. That hairstyle didn't work. And they would send me I had some really good girlfriends that I worked with in Columbus. I worked with a really diverse group of women, and they would bring things in for me to try, or I'd tell them what was working and what wasn't. And, little did I know that all those cute braids were necessary.
Listen now. That is beautiful, though. That's the beauty of it. These are the conversations that need to be had that bring people together right here. You know what I mean? They make it seem like it's not that. I mean, I'm not going to say it's not that difficult, because even in 2020, going into 2021, I can imagine it's still to be very difficult for interracial relationships. But nothing like this. Come on now.
Well,
depends on where you're at. I mean, honestly, it probably does. It probably depends on where you're at.
I think it's a little bit of it everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't think it matters where you're at. You're not going. I mean, you're not going.
This coming from the dude who has the Aryan-looking son, so blonde hair, blue eyes, ready to go.
You better not call my nephew an Aryan. Now, if you ever shave his head, I'm gonna say,
we'll be having a problem.
He's not my nephew for 2 weeks till his hair grow back. You hear what I'm saying?
What do you mean shave his head?
Well, when he gets older, that's fine. But right now, as a kid,
red wig on him.
Right. Listen, he'll be wearing a do-rag with me. You hear what I'm saying? No bald head.
What's you doing? I'm going out with Uncle Cliff.
Listen, no bald head, blue-eyed kids walking around with Uncle Cliff here.
Well, when you try to explain to people what you mean by that, like when you say, well, what do you mean, like, people are racist in an area, or what do you mean you experience that? Like, I try to go to I have to tell you, I try to go to as basic as I can. Because if I try to tell on the big stories,
right.
So, like, I'll often use an analogy that, especially in this area, that I have visibly watched people respond to my husband completely differently if he walks into the 7-Eleven off of the tennis court or basketball court or out of the boardroom.
Right.
Right.
And you watch a physically different response sometimes.
No, I get it.
And that's like been going on for years.
No, I get that. That's different. I feel like that comes with the territory. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he's been experiencing that since the beginning of time. It might aggravate you a little bit more because it's your introduction to it, but he probably operates somewhat differently out of the tennis court than out of the boardroom.
You have to.
Right. And I mean, it's fucked up to say, but it's the truth. I know what I look like on a daily basis. You know what I mean? Like, even, like, beyond the clothes I wear. You can see my tattoos. You can see scars. I got them all over my face and everywhere. And the immediate reaction is, oh, he's roughneck. It's going to be a problem. So, when I know I got a tie or at least a collared shirt hanging in the back, they can think, oh, it happened a different way. You know what I mean? He was not a fighter. He might have got beamed in the face by a baseball. You know what I mean?
But yes, but trying to, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, that is like such a blatant, clear, juvenile explanation. How do people not understand that when you
Right.
say, like, why are they judging me? Like that. That's just the basis of the how
Well, is
deep
it?
that.
Well, let me ask you this: is it really judgment if you were raised to believe it that way?
It is not.
Right.
Oh,
You feel what I'm saying? It's not a judgment, it's a fact. The fact is my father, my grandfathers, my mother, my
It's
grandmothers taught
perception,
me
not
this.
necessarily that, but it's the perception for
Right.
sure.
Is what I'm
But
saying. So
perception is reality at the end of the day. So
it
if
is
that's
your
the
own
perception, you're
perception. Your perception is your own reality.
but
yes.
I
Correct.
mean, I guess with that being said though, at the same time, if you removed my tattoos and the scar on my face, that doesn't guarantee they treat me any different.
True.
It
Agree
doesn't.
on that.
I don't have
You
any.
feel what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, it perception only goes so far. You know, and it's beyond the taught perception. It's the teachings in general.
Well, it's preconception.
Right.
It-
Well, right,
it-
right.
You have a preconceived idea of what this person or what this interaction is going to be.
Like I like seeing the kindergarten teachers with the tattoos now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that
Well, I
wouldn't
mean,
be anything
she was
that
on the
would-
show. Samantha is one of
I
like
I
she's not
love
kindergarten,
stuff
obviously.
like
She's
that,
middle
though.
school,
Like,
but like yeah.
Like, why do we have like? Let's break the stereotypes. It's not like what it was.
I do think from a tattoo perspective that stereotype has dwindled greatly.
Definitely.
It
Just
has.
because
Definitely.
tattooing has become an art and a statement from your age down
Right.
to the young 20s.
So when we were your age, it was counterculture.
Right,
And
right,
now
right,
it's, now
right.
it's mainstream.
Right. Right.
And it's funny. So Uncle Dan's chiming in the chat. He's saying because they don't know you're a secret sweetheart ever when you look like a thug, Cliff.
And let me and listen. And let me listen. Well, first,
Cheers to Danny.
My first question would be, well, when don't I look like a thug? If that's
Well,
you
that's
know,
what he's saying. He's saying you look like a thug, but they don't know you're a sweet
Right.
little.
Well, so Dan's watching, and I know I'll make him chuckle here. Dan, that's why I don't ever go anywhere in a dark pair of pants and a hoodie.
Right.
Nowhere.
you know what? And that's
I don't
crazy
wanna be
because that's
mistaken.
all I wear is black sweats, black hoodie.
No, you're gonna get tased mistakenly. You got
Because you fit the description,
Well, listen,
motherfucker.
all I'm
We live in
saying-
Pittsburgh.
All I'm saying is your battery better be fully charged. And you better have one in the head. Because if I pull these here things out, I'm gonna be a face on a T-shirt if you don't get to that gun.
And
Be like Derek, get hit in the back and never.
Listen, I'm not playing. I'd have been pepper sprayed. What is it? Not tased. What's that?
Like cattle pride.
Whatever that
Yeah.
that little stun gun thing. All that. Yeah,
Stun
I'm not
gun,
worried
yeah.
about none of that. Just make sure you got the right
That
guy,
ain't right.
because I'll defend myself.
none of mine are driving around in dark clothes. They've all been. Well, at least two of the three have been pulled over for driving while black in my Audi or driving
Right.
while black in my Passat.
It don't matter. It don't matter what you're wearing. If
Or what you're driving.
well, that's another thing.
Oh,
If you
Oh,
look,
it matters.
but that's what I was about to
driving.
say. That's what I was going to say. If you look like you shouldn't be driving what you're
Fair.
driving,
All right. Fair point. Fair
Oh,
point.
Mike,
wear a fucking what's
Hey,
this
I got a
called? The
question
preacher
for you.
collar.
What you got?
so the last 2 or 3 times you were pulled over, broken light or whatever, have you ever been asked whose car is this?
I've been asked whose car is this in my car.
No, my favorite one though.
Ran my tags,
so-
my
I hear
name.
you.
I'm
No,
asking
the
you,
answer-
Mike. Have
the-
you been asked that question?
Yes.
The answer is no. The flip side of it is I have been pulled over in front of my own fucking house.
Well, that happens. That happens.
Like literally 3 times in the 7 years I've lived here, I've been pulled over in front of my own fucking house. Them basically asking me, "What are you doing here, motherfucker? I live here. Look
Almost
at the
60
goddamn
years
license."
old. Every single time I've been stopped, and maybe been 3 times in the
Well,
last 10 years. Whose car is this?
Like
Yeah,
Mike
I
said,
believe you.
black don't crack. So you look a lot younger than you should look, and I'm sure you drive something very nice.
Young and driving that Audi. That's
You hear what
why.
I'm saying?
15 years old.
You hear what I'm saying?
He looks like he's late 20s driving an Audi. They got questions.
I would be
And
like,
jealousy.
yeah, you could pass for 28. What you got in? You got drugs in this
28.
car?
Michelle put the good pancake makeup on you.
He had to, or your camera's extra blurry. Cause I'm just stating facts, baby.
I know it sucks, really. Trying to keep up with all that.
Man, it don't matter though. That ain't no keeping up. I know you keeping up. Stop it.
You know I'm keeping up.
I know you keeping up. I love y'all.
That's
man.
called behind the scenes. You leave
love
them
y'all.
alone.
Listen, I didn't need details. I'm just saying I would never take out Michelle
I'm not getting left
for
behind, Cliff.
slowing. Right. You feel what I'm saying?
Uncle Dan chiming back in with, and Cliff, not always a thug look on you. You've looked respectable at weddings until you're not sober.
Hey,
while you're still sober.
And the tux.
We were talking
I
about
had to go find it.
Uncle Dan, fools
Right.
do agree. So
all were reclaimed. It was good.
But it's interesting when Mike Chauncey asked you that question, and that's happened with all of our kids too. Whenever they've been pulled over, the first question is, "Whose car is
Right.
this?"
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, the only time I ever got asked
what are you doing in this neighborhood?
Right.
Well, and that's the one I get because I'm the white guy who lives in the hood, and our neighborhood's gotten better and all that.
Listen,
kind
I
of
moved
shit.
to Gehenna in the 8th grade. I was the little nigga from Gehenna. Like, what?
I will say the only time I got asked whose car is this was when
I was
when I pulled over
when
in
I went
Cedar
to
Point.
jail. That's when I went to
This is true. Cliff went to jail that night.
in Steubenville.
No,
Oh,
it was
what
not
the
in Steubenville.
hell?
What was
It was not Sandusky.
well, they drove me out through Steubenville to Pike County.
Well, it wasn't. They drove you out of Sandusky to Pike County. Sandusky.
Steubenville's over by us.
Steubenville's over by
You're right.
the PA border.
I'm wrong.
That's all right. Good try, though. I was doing it.
Sandusky, yeah, it's really red up there.
Right.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
wrong.
look, even Char's chiming in. Gift shop at the Historical Museum.
Well, Shar, why did you let me leave my daughter's Raggedy Ann doll? I was sleeping there the whole time. I should have been cuffed.
All right, Cliff, keep this going. I gotta.
You know I can. I'm not gonna talk about your Cowboys until he gets back.
Yeah. I got nothing to say.
I mean, what can you really though? Like, it doesn't look like. And then I knew once Dak went down, it was just. I said I won't
that
talk.
was
Well,
so
wait.
gross.
It started before Dak.
It
Fred
did.
Retired. Tyron Smith, Lyle Collins, the night guy now, Cam Irving, there are guys who
Y'all
should
need-
be playing Canadian football.
Y'all need Jerry Jones to get caught in another brothel or a adult spot. Get him up out of the Cowboys because he fucks shit up.
Yeah, he does.
Hey, Cliff.
Huh?
Yeah, I got a text from one of my girlfriends. She saw Mike's thing on Facebook, and so she says she's watching the podcast. She said, Chauncey's killing me. You guys are hilarious.
Listen, I'm trying to tell y'all.
So she says, honey, excuse me, I'm obsessed with your husband.
Who is this?
Sandra. My girl Sandra, shout out to her. I love
Shout
that
out
girl.
Sandra. I hope that you're a regular guest, even without these two lovely faces on the show. I'll try to entertain you.
I got to get some more wine though. So while you guys, think of something interesting.
I don't want to get in too much football because I don't know what Mike's gonna say. But
Well, I don't know squat about football, unless it's the Buckeyes.
Go on to your next topic.
So what I want to know is, LeBron, are you happy that he got the final jump or?
Yes.
So the NBA was tough for me, right? That when they started back in the bubble, I will tell you, the fact that he went and he got Anthony Davis and they won it, super team. He's earned his place in history.
I agree.
Although the fans weren't there,
right?
I think the one thing I really did like with the bubble is that on the end lines, you saw guys really playing for fully 94 feet.
Right.
Because you could go hard at the rim and still go 6 or 8 feet beyond the end line and not be 8 rows up in the bleachers.
Right.
So I think you saw, the same way with nobody on the sidelines, you saw the full width and length of the court being played.
Right.
But, LeBron, happy for him, I guess. I'm a suffering Wizards fan, right? Apparently I can't choose any.
They were right on the brink of greatness, and it's like they just let it go.
John Wall got hurt. They got no identity.
They got rid of Otto Porter. They had Bradley Beal. It seemed like they were on the.
They got rid of the left-handed dude that went to Phoenix too.
Not Saturansky or what's his name?
Saturansky was another one. I don't know. He was cheap. Why'd you get him?
He was great. Like every time you let him in the game.
Is who I'm thinking of.
Yep. Yeah, it's rough for you. It's rough. Well, listen. Let me stop. I'm a Cleveland Cavalier, without LeBron.
I'm not an NBA fan. I was a LeBron fan.
So Cliff, I consider the Wizards my regional team. Right? You're in Columbus and you're rooting Cleveland. You take
right.
So although we're only 2 hours away,
right.
Wizards are my regional team.
Nah, I'm with that.
Here's what I got when it comes to the NBA. I'm a Lakers girl and only a Lakers girl. Don't follow them all that much. Don't follow NBA all that much. But in the 80s, I lived in LA when the Lakers were hot. And let me just tell you, it was a party.
So you're not happy about the victory this year for Kobe?
She's unaware LeBron's won again.
Yes, I did. No, I did know that.
Yes, listen, I didn't watch any of it.
Correction, she did know.
And yes, I was very excited about that. So it just made me kind of relive those 80 for a minute. 85 when I was interning out there. Woo!
You was out. That's out. You was out in the Magic days.
Yes, let me just tell you, it was snowing everywhere around California. I mean, not me, but I'm just saying.
Right.
Because it was the 80s and it was LA.
Right.
It was the time and I
bet. I bet. Push it to the limit. That's what Scarface came out around them times. Listen, that's a problem.
Scarface came out in '83. You are correct.
Yeah. I know. All right, listen.
There you go. Look
I
at
may
Cliff
be
with
young.
the movie trivia.
I may be young, but schmo down. Get me in there.
Schmo down. Oh goodness! So did we? I heard you say you're not going to talk about his Cowboys until I came back.
Go ahead, Mike. You can talk about them. I know your piddly little Bills are doing a little something.
They're
at the
4-2 right now.
They're
right. 4-2 right now. What are the Raiders? 5-1 or 4-2?
I think they're either 4-2. Yeah, they're 4. Wait, no, 4-2.
Did they win last week?
3-2. They're 3-2. They had a
bye.
They
already have a bye week.
Yeah, last week was.
And
a bye.
by the way, even at 2-4, the Cowboys lead the NFC.
I know. I saw that.
Trash.
I saw that.
Wait. Isn't that our boy Malcolm's team?
Oh, the Eagles.
The Eagles.
Oh my God.
They came
back
like
1-4-1 or something like that.
All you have to do is get to the playoffs. It doesn't matter.
You're right.
7-9. You just got to get.
That's what we said about Whitehall too, and that didn't work out. So
hey Cliff, I got another text shout out from Sandra. So she's cracking me up over here. She's like laughing my ass off with you guys. She said, "Cliff better stop. He don't want none of this."
Yeah, well, I'm just saying.
That's my girl too. I really love that girl.
My mom chimed in.
He probably went down and got the whole bottle. So
what did she say about the Seahawks?
She said, "Football. How about those Seahawks?" Just because she moved out to Seattle.
Whatever. Oh, so she's done with. Oh, you're done with New York? Rita?
You done with the Jets?
You done with the Jets? Because I saw, what was that loss they took last week?
Right. I'd be a Seahawks fan
I'm not
too,
mad.
Mom.
I'm not mad at her. She's going to be sleepless, but I'm not mad at her.
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, man, the Bills doing all right.
I bet you guys were pretty happy to see sports return on any level.
I mean,
you know what?
Truthfully, up until probably the last 2 weeks, because I was coaching, I didn't even watch.
Yeah,
like,
I didn't. I'm a more.
You're a boxing,
I know,
like MMA kind
of
fan.
I haven't missed boxing. And speaking of, I want to get to
we've
that
got
later.
a
Boxing
fight.
or MMA?
Boxing. I used to
Cliff is a
partake in
boxing
boxing,
fan.
but I do both, or I watch both. But yeah, I train like boxing and all that. That's what boxing.
Really?
Yes.
Well, the only thing I like about MMA is when it first started, Chauncey tried to try all the moves on me.
Really? I mean, that's what he's
Hell.
supposed to do. I do that with my daughter. You need to learn how to get out of this. You never know what might happen.
Giving new vision to the rear naked choke.
Now that's that hockey fighting beer you're drinking there, sir.
I'm like, okay, I don't want to watch it, but you can practice.
We won't even talk about the ground and pound.
Oh, no.
And you thought my one-liners were good.
Oh,
Sorry.
So let me chime in with this real quick. So,
oh man,
you know, I'm going to get a little serious right here.
you got to.
Chauncey's very much a role model for me. And I think he really has
He's
been.
a role model for me.
Since I've gotten to know him a little bit better, especially when I was living in Pittsburgh and like just, you know, his interactions with his family, kind of what he's been through professionally.
Right.
Chauncey is one of the most buttoned up folks I know, but the way he comes with zingers from the background, there is nobody better. There is nobody better. Chauncey from the Peanut Gallery is legendary in our family, and it is phenomenal.
Adjust your tie on him. Just adjust your tie and
Right,
let him know I'm
and that's
still
exactly
here.
what it is. He'll say something from the other room like,
What'd you say?
"Ha!" And then he'll go,
Yeah, like Chauncey, everybody thinks Chauncey's not around, he's not listening, he's not paying attention. And like Michael said, he comes with these zingers.
He's like Batman.
And I'm just like going, yep, I knew it. I was waiting.
He's
he
like
just comes
Batman.
out with that quick draw, pop out,
Right.
and then he puts it back.
It's like that little snake, like,
You may not hear me, you may not see me, but I'll strike.
You won't
I
even
see.
know where it came
Right.
from. Like a cobra.
That made me think of dodgeball.
Dodgeball that's
Ben Stiller.
Chauncey the Cobra.
Right.
I've been calling him a cobra for years.
Not the cobra. Copperhead.
Oh, uh-oh. Not the black mamba, but the copperhead.
I miss you two so much.
Right, I do too. I'm going to have to challenge you to a game of one-on-one next time I see the Copperhead versus the new Muggsy Bogues. I don't know if I can still jump with this knee injury, but listen, baby.
My wife doesn't let me jump anymore after both of mine have been reconstructed. I don't know if you can see the zippers or not, but at 45, I can still grab the rim. Not so much anymore.
Right. I can still get backboard.
Yeah.
Something about that 13 years.
What it is
Adding
coming
on to the
down.
45, you know, something about that.
What are you talking about? You might mean minus 13 years. Look at him.
Shut up, Michael.
He's a beautiful chocolate man.
I know y'all better stop talking about my Uncle Chance like that before somebody comes and finds him and he's rolled up in a mat in somebody's gym somewhere with his euthogenics sucked up out of his
Euthogenics.
So let me just round back to some of the questions that you guys were asking earlier.
Of course.
Absolutely.
About Chauncey. So, you know, it really speaks to the character of a man who can set aside multiple years of no thank you, no thank you, you're not welcome, like,
Right.
That's called resilience and
I mean,
perseverance.
and
it
and,
depends.
and it speaks magnitudes to somebody who can step back up to the plate and say that all of those are bygones, because what's more important is the love for my wife, and also an
Right.
honest his love for my mother.
Yeah.
And those things transcended his own pride.
Right.
And he didn't have the need to be prideful. He only had the need to make things better for everybody, which then is what speaks volumes to people,
Right.
and then what starts changing people's minds about character. And I can tell you that Chauncey has stepped up to the plate in multiple times, and multiple big needs in my family, where then later people have said we were wrong for the opinion we had.
Right. Right.
We were wrong for going against their marriage. We were wrong for thinking it was wrong. We were wrong for not understanding. And we've also had that impact, not only him exclusively, but us as a couple and as a family. We've had that impact on people at church.
I'm sure.
Maybe
Well,
even a little in our
not-
workplaces.
And I'm
Not to be resentful, but when do you usually figure out that we were wrong? You know what I mean? Because that sounds like a very old person thing to say.
well,
And at that point, I don't really accept that, because you're just coming to the end of your life and realizing all the wrongs I've done I need to atone for. And I'm not
No,
necessarily...
those things occurred way earlier than that.
Okay,
Let's clear back. We'll go clear back to my dad. I'll give you a couple quick examples.
Okay.
Initially, it was my family that was more resistance, but we met some resistance from Chauncey's family. His aunts gave
Oh,
me
I'm sure. Listen, I'm not going to say nobody's name, but I used to get threatened that if I came home with a white girl. You hear what I'm saying?
Yes. So
If she can't use our comb, don't bring her home.
He's stupid. He's
so
stupid.
that's a real thing.
No,
So
that was the saying. That was the saying. I'm not gonna say I have or have not heard it, but that was the saying.
it was a saying. I heard it. You've heard it. Michael might not have heard it, but all the rest of us have.
I mean, obviously, I'm not using any comb, so I don't know.
But you know what? That was also one of the more reasons why I feel like I was more open to dating white women, because it was like, ooh, I make so and so mad. I don't care if she mad. I'ma do what I want to do.
Yeah, well, it was more about the relationship. But what I was saying was that it didn't take till the end of life, fortunately in our case, for people to turn around. So Chauncey's mom and dad, like his dad was always very accepting. His dad was the first to know.
Right.
The parents.
Oh, I'm sure he peeped it
And
He peeped it when he saw the gas after y'all got back from Pittsburgh and was
Exactly.
like, oh, I know what happened here. He was gone. She picked. Yeah, I know what's going on.
There was some resistance there from his side as well.
Didn't leave the tank low, Cliff, man. I covered all.
I know you did.
Shot where a little boy walks backwards through the thing. I had all my stuff back.
Chauncey taking pictures with a
I know
Polaroid
that's
of the gas
right.
gauge before he left.
I know that's right. I know that's right. Excuse me. I'm sorry. What were you saying?
So I would say that Chauncey's mom was very quickly, if you're in love with her, if she is right for you,
Because she's the one who raised me. Do what you want.
Right.
That's what I want.
and then her and I became the best of friends, and I had a wonderful, wonderful, loving relationship with my mother-in-law,
That's
who
beautiful.
came to cherish me.
That's
And I
beautiful.
know that she came to cherish me.
Right.
So, and that happened early on. The same thing with my dad, where with the initial resistance, before we were married, Kevin Huber was actually going to walk me down the aisle, because my dad was caving to the peer pressure he was experiencing externally, because it's not how he raised me and it's not truly how he felt.
Right, right.
So before we married, he came to us and apologized and said that he was wrong and that he had caved
Oh,
to peer
that's
pressure
beautiful.
around him, which was wrong.
Did he walk
And
you
that
down the aisle?
he asked if he could walk me
Oh,
down the
that's
aisle. He asked
beautiful.
Chauncey to forgive him.
That's beautiful.
And then once he committed to us, it was all or nothing. So I was either included or he didn't come.
Right.
There's only one instance that occurred that I wasn't invited, that my dad went to anyway with my insistence. But that occurred quickly. My other family members, my uncle was married to a Taiwanese woman, so he came around quickly. My aunt had diverse sexual preferences, so she came around quickly. Like these were all people that were in our support system even before, and kind of pushed my dad along. The one that took the longest to come along was my grandfather, and he did fortunately come along way before he was on his deathbed.
You gotta give him more time.
But it was after children, and he loved children.
Yeah.
And he was, after my children were around him, he couldn't anymore. And then once he apologized and he extended the olive branch, it had been kind of difficult and a very strenuous thing for a number of years. And not one of my family members would have given Chauncey a hard time for saying, well, thanks, but no thanks. Like you said, Cliff, your opinion, a little too late.
Well, no, that's a little different in my mind, though.
It's like, the farther you go back generationally,
yeah, I understand,
you gotta give them more time. Yeah.
That's different.
So then Chauncey was like, no, I went to his house upon invitation, and then from there it was, water under the bridge. And then years go on, and life goes on, and big things happen, and Chauncey steps up to the plate repeatedly, and each time that happens, more people fall off the, for lack of a better term, prejudice.
Right. All it takes is to get to know somebody.
Well, absolutely. I think that's something that so I was going to chime in with this earlier, and I didn't quite find the opening, because you were kind of talking about, how much Chauncey has stepped up kind of throughout your relationship, and then obviously as a father and everything else. I'm like, I'm sure Chauncey has heard the phrase, "You're one of the good ones," more times than he can count.
Oh, I'm sure.
And that's one of those things that probably eats a little bit.
I'm sure.
And that's kind of where that got to from what I was thinking. And it's like, no, if you would actually know people, that you understand.
But
there's just as many good as bad, just like your own race.
It's funny that you say that, because I feel like that's the number one reason why they say black people have thick skin, is because shit like that hits all through your life, and you learn to level out what you think it is. That, when people say stuff like that, I don't immediately equate it to racism. I just say, oh, you don't know black people.
Well, and it goes back to
black friends.
You and I have actually talked about this in the past. Like, what's the one thing I've acknowledged when a buddy of mine, like Dean or whoever,
I've been talking black shit, or
shit? I'm blacker than you are, like that kind of stuff, or you sound whiter than I do,
right.
And it's taken time even for that lexicon to kind of fall out of my language, but I don't
listen. I'm not gonna lie and say that it hasn't for me. You feel what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm not gonna say that.
And I'm not proud of that by any means. It's like being able to acknowledge it.
Right, as you. So listen, I know that means nothing.
Yeah.
You mean when somebody makes that phrase, "You're one of the good ones"? Yeah, that makes me want to throat punch people.
I mean,
sure.
To me, it just means nothing. I get that kind of, like that. It's not quite a smirk, but it's like where your brain goes like, okay.
Yeah, and you and I have talked about that in the past.
Understand
you
where
mean I'm one of the good humans?
Right.
I'm a good human. Gee, thanks.
Or you articulate yourself.
You're very articulate. Right, that's the other one, right?
Okay. All right. Well.
And there's for some of that there's an emotional callus. You just listen to it. It's
yeah, that just rolls off my. Listen, there was people in my family that said I talked white, so it was like shit. Listen, I'm hearing it from them and y'all, so y'all, I don't know if y'all right or wrong. I don't know what the fuck is going on.
Now, meanwhile, I've been told I talk black, And I take it as a badge of honor.
Well, that's the what's the whatever that is.
Right.
I mean, I've definitely heard through, I mean, now mind you, almost 40 years, I've definitely heard, oh, I didn't know you were black when we were on the phone.
Right. I'm sure.
But I've heard that.
Well, and one of the favorite stories
Not
I have
from me. I mean, I've heard, obviously not to me.
Right. Well, but comparable story though, like Michelle, you told me a story probably while I was still living in Pittsburgh or right after I left about being at the beauty salon and listening to some woman kind of run her mouth about how white women don't understand black men and how could you raise a black child, blah blah blah, and your response to her when Laura walked in was, oh, by the way, that's my daughter. Like,
I mean, but those.
Yeah, the flip side of that, Mike, is so. I think we were not long in Pittsburgh. Michelle's at the Giant Eagle. She's with the kids.
No, we were in Jersey.
Oh, I don't even want to talk about that.
In Jersey.
Wait, this is.
And she's in the grocery store. And, right, so folks just feel like they could say any kind of thing that comes to their mind. So she says, hey, where'd you get those little black babies?
To Michelle.
Michelle explained where they came from. Biologically.
I mean,
Well,
that's why I said I don't want to talk about
when a man
that.
loves a woman and 9 months later.
Because my
No,
daughter.
I looked dead at her. It was how she said it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
She said, where did you get those?
Like they're
children?
for
Where did you
sale.
get
Like,
black
yeah,
babies?"
aisle 6, man. Aisle 6. And you can get black babies over there in aisle 6. You
I
should
know, I
hurry
looked
up
at her
before they
and
sell out.
I said, excuse me? And she said, well, where did you get the babies? I said, from my vagina.
What'd she say?
Her mouth dropped open.
Mic drop.
And I said,
Right.
well, I didn't drive
Mic
up
drop.
to Wendy's and say, can I have 2 biracial babies to go, please?
Listen, let me
Like,
tell
what
you
kind of way is
something.
that to ask somebody? They freaking look like me.
Let me tell you something. My daughter is lighter than her mother.
Yeah.
And when I go out with her, until people get a look at her, they all look at me crazy. Like, what are you?
Meanwhile, if they saw pictures of you from her age,
well, that's what
they
I'm
would
saying.
be like, you two are fucking identical.
You can look her in the face if you're looking that close at her and see, but
I remember
most people don't look. They just look and they just see her hair and her eyes, and they're like, oh,
I
yeah, no,
remember
I don't
seeing
know.
her kindergarten and first grade pictures and pulling up our old Mansion Day School first and kindergarten pictures. And y'all motherfuckers look exactly alike.
She don't look that much like.
Yeah, she does.
She does not. I still need a DNA test.
Wait. Not anymore. I think she is.
Where
grown
my
into her own.
DNA test at?
But 4 or 5 years, or 3 or 4 years ago.
I'm just playing.
3 or 4 years ago, she was a fucking dead ringer for you. At
Yeah,
that
The older,
age,
the older
especially.
she gets, the
Funny
more she looks
examples
like her
of
ugly
people-
ass mama.
Examples of people just not paying attention. This is just
No,
clearly
you're right
just
though.
don't
I
pay
joke,
attention.
but you're right.
So one of them is Chauncey and Laura work for the same company. They work for the same company. Laura looks exactly freaking like him. Like exactly like.
I don't know. I think it's a clean mix. Like it's a clean. Like
Well,
I feel like
and
that's a 50-50 split.
No,
And the
not
prob-
Laura.
the
Not
prob-
Flip. You look at Laura's face and Chauncey's
That's a
face.
50-50
She acts
split.
like me, sounds like me, but she looks like him.
Before
But it's
you
the last name Smith that does it, though.
Hold that thought.
That's
Hold
a very
that thought.
common name.
hold
But
that
people
thought.
have no clue. They
Hold
have
that
no
thought.
clue.
All I'm saying is my aunt told me.
Wait, I'm not
Whoever-
done. This story is funny. Wait.
All I'm saying is my aunt told me whoever kid looks more like that parent is who is working harder in the bedroom. And
Well,
I
tell her
I feel like y'all both was even. Y'all
Another two?
y'all both was even on that one. All of them, y'all are. I feel like y'all are dead ass even. All them kids look exactly like a mixture of y'all.
But the funny thing is, my point is that people just don't pay attention. to so much
Right.
to the point that Laura made reference in this conversation, like professionally, okay, maybe wasn't the best choice, but they had just been in a meeting that Chauncey had led. And
Right.
so then Laura had to take this segment over. So Laura's talking about this segment, and she makes several references to my dad.
Right.
Yeah.
And then later she says something about well, I'll have to ask my dad about that.
Which is not great
The
professionally.
woman did not wrap her brain around the fact that that was actually Laura's dad. She thought she was saying that she was talking about
someone else.
My dad, like some Indian dude. She's like, what are you?
Madid.
Who are you talking about? Who's my dad? Who's my dad? And she said, you know, my father, my dad, the guy who led the meeting, kind of thing. But I mean, the woman couldn't even consider the fact that that was her dad. She like was trying to think of who was my dad.
And listen, I've been in situations where I'm like, baby, let's go to the car. Because I don't, listen, you don't got an ID in.
Shannon and Derek in high school together. Okay, so they are closer together in age. So they're, sometimes their study halls and such mix. So they're in school together. Derek was probably a senior and Shannon a sophomore. And so they're in study hall together. Study hall's been going on 6 months. Okay, now they sit right next to each other because of their alphabetical,
blah,
Derek blah, blah.
And Shannon.
Yeah.
They talk to each other like dirt every day because they're siblings, you know what I mean? Like, and they're in their teens.
Right, they talk shit.
So
and they have the same last name.
So the teacher calls on them or whatever, and so something interaction goes on between them, and she starts to discipline them. And Shannon says, she yells at Shannon and says, well, you need to apologize to him. And Shannon says to the teacher, well, you know, okay, but, you know, that's how it is with brothers. You know, he's my brother. Like, you know, I always talk to him that way. And the teacher's mouth dropped open. And was like, what do you mean he's your brother? And Shannon was like dumbfounded. She's like, I have sat next to him for 6 months. You call our name back to back. We hit each other. We talk to each other. We have identical DNA. Like, she saved his life. Identical freaking DNA. Did you not take 2 seconds to like look at us?
Right.
And the teacher had no idea that they were brother and sister.
These two biracial kids in this white suburb
are related.
I'm
always listen. Now I'm always devil's advocate. Now there's too many of y'all mixed breeds to keep track of. I don't care if y'all got the same last name or not. I can't keep track of all y'all mixed breeds.
It comes back to
all y'all mulattoes.
It comes back to
right. Right.
What about when you went to tell Cliff about when you went to high school to the open house night?
Oh shit. They called the police like Bexley. They called the police on y'all like Bexley.
He went to Derek's teacher's class, and the teacher proceeded to ask him if he was so-and-so's dad. Nope. So-and-so's dad. Nope. So-and-so dad. Nope, that's the white dude back there. That's his dad.
They went through all the interracial kids they could think of.
The black kids, the whole 4 black kids in the whole class, and still never got it right.
Super awkward. Oh yeah.
And then other people in the classroom, other parents are like embarrassed.
Right, because they've all been in the same class since kindergarten.
Right. And the one boy said, and Chauncey's like, no, that's that white. He didn't say white dude. That's that dude, Jr., the white dude in the back corner. He didn't say white dude. He's like, no, that's that dude's son. Like, and then she still didn't get it right.
But
you know what?
Why? You know what though? You know what's even more fucked up is even if they get it right, you're still offended. Because I went to my daughter's school. Now, mind you, I went there on open house and all that when she was first being admitted. And we read and took her and introduced the teacher. But I never met anybody in the office. And I went to pick my daughter up before the end of school one day. And the first thing they said was, let me guess, you're Karma's dad. And I was like, well, what the fuck
does that mean?
Makes you think as soon as I walk into school, you're like they saw me before and were like, the guy with the tattoos and all that is Karma's dad. So if he comes in, because I walked straight into the office there and they were like, Karma's dad, she's on her way. And I felt like Well,
Again,
what does that mean?
Jennings not as common as Smith.
You're right. And Karma has both the last names. It's Jordan Jennings. But I didn't show an ID.
Oh, okay. All right.
I just walked in, and before I could even say, hey, they were like, Karma's dad. You got it. That's less questions.
That's because her mom had already told him about you.
Probably. She probably did say, Karma's dad will be here.
He's kind of thuggish.
She probably did. I wouldn't put that past her.
Chauncey and I have a friend who is an outstanding oncology breast cancer surgeon, a black gentleman, and lived in one of the wealthiest areas in Pittsburgh. But when he would show up at the school to pick up his daughter or his son, he was always he on more than one occasion was treated in that fashion, Cliff, like the exact same type scenario, maybe not the exact same words, but damn close.
Listen, let me be honest. When that happened, I was like, "Oh, this is convenient racism. I like this racism.
This is convenient."
Right at? Can I go to Bob Evans and be like, "Oh, get him his food and get him out of here"? If that racism was what went on, I would be like, "No equality. I vote for Trump. I want it to stay just like this." Convenient racism.
I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I want to be anonymous, man. Just go in, get my case.
No, I get it. No, I do get that. I get that.
So,
there's no trouble being anonymous because they always put us in the back of a restaurant.
Everybody knows the 26-year-old dad with the 26-year-old kids.
Right.
You're like, don't be a menace. The dude with the kids reading a book to him before he went to sleep.
His kids are older than he is.
Right. He's like, can I stay up? He's like, nah, I gotta go out tonight, so just go to sleep.
So I gotta jump into the chat real quick. So one, Uncle Dan has been throwing zingers, and I have not done enough to kind of chime in. So one, he was talking about me commenting on the Chauncey giving us stuff from the peanut gallery. He said, or maybe he's just subtle compared to the rest of our loud family.
Subtle, but from the frickin' peanut gallery.
Right.
The two was when you were talking through kind of how things not necessarily, well, I guess blew up in terms of your relationship. He's like, I'm not choking up, you're choking up. with the comment on the grocery store incident, he just chimed in with Black Mart. I got these
what
babies
grocery store
from Black Mart.
Oh, right. You're right. In aisle 6. Go get the babies from aisle 6.
And then the last one was regarding the school situation about going through all the names. He says, wonder how close the teacher was to denying that they all look the same to her.
Dan, she was still confused because I didn't help her fill in the block.
Right.
Like she would when the time ran out, she still didn't know because I didn't tell.
That's funny.
I missed that part.
She never asked.
She never connected him to our son because he never got her off the hook.
You know what? That's funny because the next time somebody does that to me and they say, "Oh, Karma's down," I'm say, "No, Tyler, get Tyler for me, please."
Be like, "Who's Tyler?"
Right? Oh, yeah, no, you assumed I was Karma. No, get Tyler. I need Tyler out here.
No, don't be Tyler. There'll be like 6 of them.
Right? And one of them might be black, and they'd be like, "Oh no, his
Tyler
parent hadn't came for 3 days. He's going with you." And I'd be like, "Well, Tyler and Karma, come on, we gotta go." I'm about to drop Tyler at the fire station. Let's go.
You know, we'll talk real quickly about how, the current state of affairs and the more recent incidences that have occurred, and in particular George Floyd.
Right.
And,
look at Michelle running the show. I love it. Keep going.
Don't you
She's
stop.
the matriarch.
Don't let him throw you off. You was on. Don't let him throw you off.
But basically, the whole thing has been. It's not new to us.
Absolutely.
None of this is new to us.
Right.
None of the stuff that has occurred is new to us. But what happened with this particular incident is that it did become new to people who weren't truly aware. And it did help people who really didn't understand systemic racism open their mind a little and see that maybe I'm wrong, maybe they are right, maybe the color of their skin does have an impact. And for the first time ever, we're seeing protests. And I don't want to hear about, yes, yeah, they're bad protesters. Some of those are inserted. But most of the protests have been peaceful. But for the first time ever, we're seeing cross races and cross generations. You see protests of more white people on occasion than black.
We're taking ownership finally.
And none of this is new to us, but yet it has brought in a deeper sensitivity and a deeper understanding to people who haven't opened their mind to it. And some of that is based on their impact by people like us.
Yep.
Right.
So people who are now more sensitive to it have been impacted by Chauncey and I, have been impacted by our children, have been impacted by knowing us and or understanding some of our history, or being open to hearing those stories from a different vein. And when I say to somebody, I couldn't watch that George Floyd incident because that was my husband's
Still to
neck.
this day, I didn't.
That was my brother's neck. That was my son's neck. Like I can't barely, as a woman of any color, as a wife, a mother, I can't get through that. That is mine.
When I heard him screaming, I had to turn the video off because that would have flipped my trigger, bro.
No, and I get it. And we talked about that.
I think that a fight that we've been fighting, or things that we've been trying to say, or we've been trying to get people to hear, are being heard louder because they have a more open mind and a more open heart.
By y'all's kids.
And they want
it's by y'all's kids.
To understand.
That's the reason why it's being heard louder. It's by y'all's kids. And that's factual evidence. There's nothing there. I mean, that's the people like you that raised the kids that they raised are the reason. Remember, we had that conversation. I hate when people tell me, make sure you go out and vote. Make sure you go out and vote. I hate hearing it because it's like, well, do you think that's all Malcolm and them did? They wasn't just voting. They were fighting. You feel what I'm saying? And at some point, that generation lost the fight and just decided to continue to play the rules by the way they were laid out. No, I'm a dice roller. So when I hear an older person say, go out and vote, the first thing that comes to my mind is, well, what the fuck have you been doing since then? Because voting isn't enough.
So, yeah, but, Cliff, to that point, there's a whole lot of them that have never voted, right?
And no, you're right. You are right.
Until the 15th Amendment.
I'll give you that.
Not the 13th.
Right.
That everybody was granted the opportunity.
I'll give you that.
So while it isn't sufficient in and of itself, there's a whole lot of them.
But where did the guerrillas go, though? Like, where did the people that we knew, okay, this vote won't work, we still need to do this to make something, where did they, it seems like they died with that generation.
But that's part of the problem is, and we talked about this when we said what they won't teach you in schools, right? It's things like COINTELPRO eliminated leaders, period.
No, I get
eliminated them.
Fred Hampton,
and so you were left leaderless for that movement, for that
But that doesn't mean it should have stopped. So
I don't disagree with
when
you.
a
I'm not going to argue with you
to
on
me
that.
says,
I don't think they
vote,
felt it.
I'm like, well, you weren't here, so shut up. Sit back and watch us do it. You weren't here. Don't tell me what to do. Sit the fuck back and you vote.
Well, and I think that goes back to some conversations we've had over the last couple of weeks. I think the biggest hope that we have for our country, our children, Cliff,
is
me
our
and you,
generation. I can't let my daughter.
It's not even our generation. I tell you what, it's the generation that's sitting right behind us, and it's
right.
It's not our kids. It's the generation between
the nephews,
our
the
kids
16,
and
17s,
and
right.
us. Is that there are so many young leaders right now that are stepping up and taking on this fight. And, people want to bash, millennials and Gen Z and all that. there are more leaders in that generation than there are in our generation.
You are 100%
as the
correct.
elder millennials and in the Gen X
I
group
agree with you
than
1000%.
anything else.
But the whole thing is, I don't want even those young leaders to think just vote. No,
I
that's
hear
not
you.
enough.
It's more than that.
It's not
Yeah,
enough.
but they don't.
Go ahead,
They
Michelle.
don't. I don't think they do in general. I think they're doers. Shannon,
Right.
Shannon and Allison's age group, they are, and Derek, like they're doers.
Right.
They're not just sitting back and waiting for a vote.
Right.
They're actively participating, and even ones younger than them. Like, look at the big drive going on right now for 17 to 20-year-olds filling 16 to 18-year-olds. Let's go lower, filling the need to fill the polling places so their grandparents aren't there, filling the polling places.
I saw that. No, I saw that, and that brought tears to my eyes.
And I'm going to go back to Cliff. You guys, where are the gorillas? They got exterminated.
Right.
You're right, but
Let's
we're
point
still
out.
here, though.
Go
We're
back-
still
go back
here.
to the 60s, and history tends to repeat itself. So you had a lot of vocal folks who were squashed. You saw the 70s get a little quieter and the 80s get quieter. So it comes back and forth.
It's a
You're
cycle.
seeing, so in 96, if you go back and you watch the clip of Rodney King,
Mhm.
right? There was a similarly a big outrage similar
Right.
to George Floyd. And at that point I felt, ooh, right, the climate's
It
changing.
could, right.
It did for a little bit.
For a
but
second.
It wasn't
right.
really sustained.
Well,
But
you
that's
had
how
all,
George
you had all
Floyd
the, You had
happened.
all the white kids that were in middle school and high school at that point, like myself, that saw the Rodney King stuff, saw, responded well to the messages that Tupac and Biggie, in terms of the late 90s, were delivering.
But
like,
you know what's crazy is that they had to teach you.
I don't
School
disagree.
wouldn't let you know.
School was not going to teach us.
But if you,
And I grew up, obviously the way I grew up,
it was some rock bands that did as well, though. I'm not gonna
No.
just say Tupac and Biggie. There were some.
those were obviously the two that
Right.
were at the top of the mind front. Like,
Right.
that's what I'm saying is that, and I think, Chauncey, you're absolutely right. I think it is that cyclical, like, kind of sine wave that happens in terms of every
Well, listen,
10, 15
all I got to
years,
say is
you're going to see something pop. And right now we're in the middle of a pop that, honestly, what I would say is the majority are supporting. The problem is that the way our government and the way our electorate is structured, you are giving voices to people. The one that gets me every time is that you have the same number of senators from 14,
with white husbands.
from 14 different
I'm
states.
just playing. I'm just playing.
You have the same number of
Like a good
senators from
joke, it
14.
came back all the way to the top.
Right, exactly. That's called a callback. You have the same number of 24 senators from 12
No, I'm
states
following you.
representing the same number of people from 2 senators in
Right.
California. Like,
Right.
the system is
Yeah,
broken.
but again, that's you equivalize that in the House of Representatives where you have your proportional and Cliff, this gets back to your thing why the voting's important. Black folks fell asleep in 2016 and allowed Trump to get elected from their non-participation and non-activation.
I do agree. I do agree with that.
I just say we can't
So
can't
at the
blame black
very
folks for
basic
that.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either.
Every man, woman, and child can vote at 18 if you are born in this country. Not everybody can be an advocate. Not everybody can be evangelical, right? But all the conditions have to be in place for that to happen. That is
Right.
not the case for voting.
My whole
And
thing.
not everybody can be a doer.
Right.
You're right. No, you're right.
I agree with
We
that.
had conversations like that on this
Yeah.
podcast. Some people just feel comfortable sending emails. Some people feel comfortable taking up arms.
And some people feel comfortable just throwing money at it.
And I'm saying everybody is welcome. But what I'm saying is, voting or not voting, doesn't matter how much we voted, we've still been in this situation. So if it doesn't, so what?
But see, again, I don't fully agree with the premise. We don't participate at the same rate. Otherwise, we would exert
Well,
greater
see,
influence on the process than you
I
do.
I agree there too, but at the same time, I feel like Obama proved that no black president's gonna be able to make nothing happen, just like no white president's gonna be able to make nothing happen for black folks. So if we keep voting presidents, what's the hero we're looking for? We have to be our own hero at some point.
Well, some of this I think comes back.
We have to be our own hero at some point. We can't just be expecting Biden and Kamala or whoever. That it's not gonna happen.
And I think you are
Well,
absolutely right.
I agree they're not going to fix. I agree that they're not going to bring you out of
The darkness, for lack
Change
of
of
a better
lifestyle.
term.
What I do expect them to be able to do is govern,
Yes.
right, from a position of knowledge and experience to be able to do the job. Unfortunately, the current sitting president doesn't have it.
I mean, I 100% get that, and I want you to get that out before you lose it. But my whole thing is the words in general, the linguistics, govern, politics. Cut it all the fuck out. I don't want to hear govern. I don't want to hear politics.
well,
Y'all
Well,
have
you have no
failed.
choice. Otherwise,
Flip.
you go back to a monarchy and you kiss
No,
the
no. See, that's the difference. See, that's where I think people get scared. Is the fact that if you fight against it, you can agree with things about the government that you don't like about it. So if we do away with this current state, that doesn't mean that we can't keep the structure that you had, but make it more equal for everyone. And that,
Philosophically, I don't disagree with you. You have a very idealistic.
I feel like I'm closer than what you're thinking with voting. Honestly, I feel like I'm closer to the possibility of us succeeding than voting. It hasn't worked for how long?
Yeah, you're wrapping a bit too much up in, right? So voting is one part of the equation. Your advocacy and other components, absolutely. But
I'm following.
at this point, in the next 20 years,
I don't want to hear that.
In the next 20 years, will
don't
we
wanna hear
vote
that.
for a president 5 times?
That's where you lose me when you say if you say the next 2 years, you've lost me. I want change now. Now.
We can change now. I'm just asking you. In the next 20 years, will there be 5 presidential elections?
Will there be?
5 times 4 is 20. Yes.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
What's
Hopefully
going to
not.
replace it?
People waking up.
And based on the Constitution and how the country's
See,
structured,
that's
how
the
does that
thing.
work?
That's what I'm saying. We're not following it right now. We're not following that Constitution to a T right now. So if we're not following it right now, then what are the things that we are following? What are we still in with?
Where's it breaking down for the Constitution? You got to help me.
You said
Where is it breaking down for the Constitution?
like whereas in the Constitution, aren't we following today currently?
Yeah.
You know what? Let me reverse it. Maybe we're following the Constitution too tough. You feel what I'm saying? We had this conversation as well. Amendments that haven't been changed and all that. There's still things in that Constitution that prevent us from being us, right? So until we can say, no, change that right there. We don't feel comfortable with that. Why the fuck am I still voting for that Constitution? Why? Somebody please explain to me why. You as well.
Yeah, no, so
I'm gonna use the restroom.
I'm just being honest. I'm not trying to cause no waves. I'm just being
No,
honest.
but I'm
So-
kind of lost. I mean, like, I'm kind of confused because, like, I mean, what do you expect to have? There has to be some.
Listen, the bottom line is we have been living
You're
this
killing
way.
willy-nilly. There has to
Right.
be some.
We've been living this way since the beginning of us being in this country. There hasn't been any change. There may have been different words written on a piece of paper, but there hasn't been any change. There's
You're
still
referring to social change, okay?
so there's still slavery when it comes to private prisons. There's still everything that went on back in the day. There's still hangings. There's still lynchings. There's still all that stuff. So what I'm saying is now, you voting, what are you doing to change what has happened over the past 100 years that is still happening today?
Yeah, but so I think you're making an argument. The argument is tough here, Cliff, right? Because
It's a tough
you're
situation.
equating the right
Yes,
of voting
they're separate
with
things.
social change. They are two different things.
Well, see, that's the thing, though. That's what I'm saying.
There's a bit of intersection.
I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is voting hasn't affected social change.
So let's take the converse. I'm not going to vote. How am I going to affect social change?
The thing is, listen, this is the thing. This is what I came down to when I said that. Playing the game by their rules isn't going to change anything.
No. My fundamental question is, if you're not going to vote and you're going to opt out of kind of the what drives the country and society, how do you then affect that change from the outside? I'm
I don't think you do. You don't.
Well, where's your argument? Like you just said, you can't have the one because there's no change. So what's the alternative?
So I feel like the only alternative is to keep playing the game the way they play and hope to win, right?
But I think that's where, and Uncle Dan's chiming in with this. He said the fight changes too. The young people are waging war in social media, Twitch, YouTube, etc.
It has to be a change.
The guerrillas
we can't
have
keep
tools
thinking
we
voting
older
is
people
enough.
may not understand or even see. So I
Voting
think
isn't enough.
it's not. But the flip side of it is that
We
a lot of what we're talking about right now with the Black Lives Matter movement, what we're talking about, leveraging social media, it's being able to provide that alternative viewpoint, because you're right, Cliff. Like, at the end of the day,
We can't keep playing the game by the same rules.
Government alone doesn't change. What you have to do is change the mindset of the populace.
Period.
And what I have thought is, I thought this after, not necessarily because Barack was elected, but my hope at that point was maybe the older generation that would vote for someone like Trump had died out enough.
That's the only thing you can do.
That's kind of where we're at this
That's
point.
the only thing you can do. Otherwise, stop voting and figure something else out.
The
Figure
problem
something
is how
else
many
out.
how many young white men are being radicalized right now online, and I've talked about that from a personal standpoint of seeing kids that I've coached in high school, specifically from the all-boys Catholic school that I worked at, being radicalized online by these white militias, by these white supremacist groups, etc.
That wasn't even a callback, and you just rounded it back to my inadvertent thought.
Yeah.
That wasn't even a callback joke, and you just rounded it exactly back to my inadvertent thought. So all I'm saying is, if people are playing mind games beyond these ballots, beyond the mailboxes that are getting snatched up out the hood, beyond all that, then what makes you think that deeper?
I agree with you. You can't play by those rules alone. What you have to do is change the mind of the people more broadly. And I do think that that's possible. The problem is how do you reach areas where that line of thinking isn't already there? Like,
I'm saying,
how do you take that thinking from the metros and from the college educated? How do you bring that further down the line? And how do you bring that deeper into education?
Mike, to that point, we talked about voting. We have a president who's pushed us backwards because we opted out of the process and didn't care enough to engage, and now we've dealt with 4 years of going backwards.
Well,
not even staying the same.
It's two steps forward.
To your point, you can't just ignore voting, and I understand where it may not be giving you the sense of advancement that you think it should.
It's
but
not
it was 150 years before we got the right for it, and you
it's
just
not a
can't.
sense.
And that's the thing that liberals are acknowledging right now. Progressives right now, trust me, do not want Biden to be the fucking president.
I don't want Biden to be the president.
Probably
I don't want Trump to be the president.
The farthest left person in
You don't want a president, so...
No, I would love to have a president, but
You want a philosopher king, is what you want.
I don't want anyone in. Why should anyone be on top?
Well, and that's the whole thing. Is that at the end of the day,
that's an outdated structure,
but
and the fact that we're still feeding into it.
But at the end of the day,
well,
the
get
president,
in line with the whole fucking world.
So
who doesn't have a structure?
So,
which country out there doesn't
just
have
a single person structure?
But that's the whole thing. Is that I agree with you on that.
You've only got a couple
of
things. You've got authoritarian, parliamentarian, democracy,
and Vladimir.
Or socialist.
What's the difference between Trump?
Pretty much your choices. You got to line up with one of the four, and I hear you saying.
No, you don't have to.
Typically, you don't want to agree with any of that, but
you don't have to.
Deal to play.
But that's
and
the whole
play under democracy.
The fact that we've been brainwashed into thinking we have
it's
to
the
is
same
the problem.
rationale that the Democrats for the last two presidential elections. Oh, we've won the popular vote. The popular vote doesn't win the presidency. You have to win the electoral college.
Right.
Figure out the math.
I was talking this shit
right,
back when Obama was in office. Am I lying?
No.
I was talking this shit back when it doesn't matter who's in office.
Here's the thing: is that I don't disagree. Like being part of a representative democracy, so it's a republic. It's
It's the best you got going.
Right.
It doesn't have to be.
Wait though. A pure democracy does not exist. A republic democracy with a representative structure is what exists. Honestly, in my mind, the president doesn't really matter. Like, at the end of the day, the president is the one who represents us on the world stage.
Now, that's where it gets scary.
Wait, I hear you.
That's where it gets scary.
But the flip side of that is the reason why we have seen a step backwards is not because of Trump. It's because of the Republican-controlled Senate, and before that, the Republican-controlled House. You saw all three branches of government were controlled by the Republicans, and they couldn't get shit done. And then when you split the difference, nothing gets done. And now, what the opportunity is with this election in particular is to flip both the House, the House, the Senate, and the presidency, because that's the only way you get shit done in this country at this point. Is you have to have all three in alignment.
So what? Then give it to another set of devils.
Give
it to another set of devils and hope that they.
It's only been the last 20 years, right? Because if you go back in time, it's not typically been a lock across all of the government.
Right.
You had a whole lot bigger concentration of.
Let me ask you something though.
Folks who may have been moderate Republicans or moderate Democrats who can actually
work across both sides. Right.
What do you think happens what do you think takes place when that happens though? Do you think that there's not people already hoping that something like this happens so they can take on?
Oh, no doubt. Wait.
So what I'm saying is
saying is the centrist view at this point. What's different about this election than even the last two or three is the fact that let's face it, we're living in an oligarchy. Corporations and the people with the money make the rules. The difference is people that have the money right now are split. You've got somebody like Bob Iger who has been running Disney for, whatever, the last 20
and you're
years.
hoping that they come to their senses like they fucking matter. They don't.
But they
just
do.
because they have
the
money.
Thing is that they've got the money, and that's who influences voters right now, is who has the money. Like, at the end of the day, because we're not educated. We're not an educated
politicians
nation.
In power.
Right.
I'm just saying. I mean,
and so what
it doesn't matter if we keep playing by the rules of the people with the most money.
Oh,
then people continue to starve and die.
Do not disagree.
And we wait until they lose it. There's no option here.
It's the option is
there is none. There is none. Let's be honest. We can keep trying to vote. We can keep trying to hope it changes if we do that. But the fact of the matter is, history has told us it doesn't. So
what's the
at
solution?
what point
do we have to wait? Where I come
do we have to wait for our kids to then take our place and be like, well, what are we gonna do?
Well, what's their solution? What's the solution?
The next Boston Tea Party. Something has to happen. It's not gonna work this way. As long as you leave the people with the most money at the top, it doesn't work. It doesn't work.
What is something?
What do you mean? What did I say
Something's
about that?
Something
gonna
has to
I said
happen.
the-
What is
What has
something?
to happen? What is
I said
something?
an uprising, a taking back
Do
of
what?
the
What's the
government.
uprising gonna do?
Where?
What do
For
you
what?
mean?
What do you?
So the Boston Tea Party, your example, was a response to being
Tax.
pissed off about taxation, and
Without
that was the
representation.
flashpoint.
And it's been
Your
worse right
comment-
now.
Your comment here at the moment is something needs to. What is something?
In
What's the
uprising,
answer?
a pushback. What do you,
Well, it's the whole uprising
don't
it's the whole uprising of the proletariat.
What
versus
is going to be the
bourgeoisie.
scenario that's the flashpoint that consolidates it? Because at
Listen,
the moment, it's a whole
I-
lot of sparks on
listen,
wet.
I don't know, but all I know is
Well, I
It's-
actually know what your
hold up.
point is.
All
so
I
let's
know
go.
is it's been a long time coming, and we could have come to this conclusion years and years before 1967 when they agreed that people can be in two races. We've been dealing with this a long time, and nothing has changed. Is the exact same story y'all told me before this podcast start, or as this podcast started.
So the point that I think we will, I'm going to say this, and it's meant to be half joke, half serious, is that Cliff on multiple podcasts over the last 3 or 4 weeks has brought up the comment of, if you make more than X amount of money, and I think the number's 500 million these days,
right, then we should be able to take it from you. If
we
you
should
don't,
be able to rob you, motherfucker.
if you
and
don't,
redistribute the
socialism.
wealth.
You-
I got it.
right.
That's socialism.
It's closer.
Well, listen, democracy clearly isn't working. If that's what we want to call this,
So
this
I'm
isn't
go,
what this is, though.
Go.
This
that's
democracy
like, where
isn't what this
socialism
is.
working at?
You said what? I'm sorry, Michelle.
So socialism, is it working in Cuba? Is it
Well, see,
working in Russia?
that's a different
It's
kind
the
of
whole,
socialism.
it's the whole
though.
democratic socialism.
Yeah, that's
is what
a
we're
different
talking
kind
about.
of socialism. Right now, we're in a country where,
Socialism is socialism.
listen, we're in a country
That's the
where
allocation.
there is, I'll say it this way. We're in a country where there is at least half the amount of arms here as the military located here. Now, I don't mean the located across the country, but I mean located here in this country. There is just as many civilians with half as many arms as the military. Now, all I'm saying is, how many people in the military feel like they're getting paid enough to fight against the civilians that are trying to get them more in the first place? There's not enough.
That's an interesting argument.
No, it's a very interesting argument because I hear it every
I don't know
day.
how relevant it is.
Now, listen, it doesn't matter how. Listen, right now, the time that we live in, and I understand why you think the way you think, because you've made it this far thinking that way, right? Your children are already my age, right?
Yep.
But they're not thinking about their children. My thing right now is operating on the same mindset as the previous generation has only gotten us just as much fucked as we were before. Only issue is now we're dealing with a pandemic as well. So naturally, and when I say naturally, hold up. When I say naturally, I mean naturally as in nature. There's more things fighting against us than just racism and just the shit going on. If something does not change now, I cannot guarantee that my daughter will have enough fight in her with all of this bio warfare going on to make a change at all. If any change is going to happen, it's going to happen with us. Voting is not going to continue to help. That's all I'm saying.
We'll agree to disagree.
It might be,
I
and I agree too, and I still love
Cliff,
you.
I would say you're mashing a couple of things together.
Yeah.
And I would say,
Shouldn't we?
Realistically, I don't disagree.
Shouldn't we
with
mash
you,
it together?
But your argument,
He said
if you're going to look at it like a military strategy, where is the weakness of the current system where you're actually going to be able to attack?
It doesn't matter.
a
At some
big enough
point,
platform
you just gotta die. At some point, you just gotta die. You just gotta let them know what you're willing to fight for. At some point.
Yeah, but you have to be savvy enough to be able to exploit the platforms that currently exist and control the structure.
And right now, the item that exists to exploit the structure is the whole idea of you have to get enough states on board with the idea of around
I feel like the ideas are not scared.
The popular vote.
They're not scared. If they were scared,
On board with that.
of people coming after them, they'd be a little bit more willing to put things in role of the people.
But you also
but since they're not scared, and we know I can take my money into China, and I can, I don't have to pay this, and the people are never gonna stand up. They don't care. Until you make them scared, it won't work. It won't work. It takes a lot of violence to get peace. Let's be honest. And this isn't working. And we know it hasn't. For at least 100 years, we know it hasn't worked. So why do we keep... I'm done with the conversation. Honestly, I'm done.
I hear you.
I'm done with the conversation.
And honestly, it's okay because
I don't mean this conversation. I didn't mean it that way.
I know what you meant.
I meant it in like long term. I'm done arguing with people trying to.
And we understand that. So we are at 2:20, which is beyond our normal run time. So I'm going to take this opportunity to wrap the show up.
All I will say is I hope that my tone and my words did not reflect directly back to you two.
Oh, no. I just think I totally understand your passion. I totally hear what you're saying, and from a philosophical perspective, I get some of what you're saying. But I think you need to take a step back and look at separating some. You have too many things mixed in there. You have to separate some of those things out to find an attack.
No, I definitely understand that. And if you have any ideas, please send them to me off air. But I just feel like we need more John Browns in this world. We need more Malcolm X's.
I don't disagree that we need more cures. I don't disagree that we need something different to happen. I don't disagree that we haven't made enough change. I don't disagree with a lot of things that you said. I do disagree in that right now your only option is to exercise your right to vote for
that's
any hope of a voice.
Now, this is the callback. This is the callback. This is the callback, the rolling dice. I will never only have one option. And that's what anybody, listen, and everybody should understand.
I misspoke. I didn't mean your only option.
Okay.
One option, but your option at the moment here in front of you is to exercise your right to vote, to initiate some change that then you can influence from your different avenues of doing.
No, I agree with that. I understand exactly what you're saying. But at the same time,
none of that. I didn't take any of that personal.
No, and I hope nobody did. I didn't mean it that way. That was just me being as hype as I am. But what I will say is piracy, baby. If this podcast stops tomorrow, I'll still be talking my shit from my home.
Pirate radio.
You know what I'm saying? And it'll get a lot more. No, I'm just playing.
So what I would like to call out, and Michelle, Chance, if y'all are still up for at least a little bit longer, what I would like to offer up is we will do our post show. For anybody that's interested, usually that's Uncle Dan and maybe like 2 or 3 other people. What we'll do is we will actually sign back onto Zoom in a different meeting. It'll be my cell phone number, password lowercase fools. Anybody that wants to hop on, Cliff and I will be here for at least a minute or two.
Before you do that, I'm sorry, before you wrap it up, congratulations and much love to my brother and sister, Malcolm and Elijah King, on their wedding. I completely spaced out and forgot all about that. If y'all are listening, I hope y'all made it to the end of the episode. If not, fuck y'all. I'm sure y'all having a good time.
And I would also like to give one more shout out to the Chaunts.
Oh yeah, Saturday,
and Michelle.
Sunday.
This weekend, celebrating
Sunday,
34
Sunday,
years.
Sunday.
Sunday.
Oh,
34 years.
Thank you.
Y'all are an inspiration to those of us
Honestly.
that are married and even those that aren't. So we love.
Well, we
both
love
of
you guys and we miss you, and thanks for the opportunity for the visit.
hopefully
We'll have you
we
back
get
on.
a chance to meet in person because I want a hug. I want a hug from my Aunt Michelle, and I want a good dap and hug from my Uncle Chance as well. I'ma get it one day.
All right.
All right.
I
we
love y'all.
We appreciate y'all coming on tonight. For those of you that are listening, watching, whatever you're doing, whether it's the podcast version, whether you've been watching us live, we appreciate you.
Fuck y'all. I'm just playing.
Why you always got to do this?
Well, if you like us, you like us. If not, then fuck y'all.
Do us a favor, like, subscribe, all that stuff. We appreciate all of y'all that listen to us kind of week in, week out. And peace out, fools. We love you.
Peace out.